Hello and welcome to ABP Education. My name is Prabjeet Singh, and I'd like to welcome you all to this next seminar in the Campus to Career series. And before talking about the webinar today, I'd like to introduce to you abpeducation.com. Basically, abpeducation.com is a higher education portal that deals in everything that happens in the world of higher education, news, updates, exams, results, educators, students, and even global universities abroad are covered by us. And we are powered by the Telegraph Online and anandabazar.com. The Campus to Career series started on August 12 with the Bengal Education Leaders Summit with Mr. Partho Chatterjee, the State Education Minister, attending it. Today's webinar revolves around the National Vice-Chancellors Roundtable, 3 Emerging Careers. So let me introduce to you the panelists of the first session. First on the panel is Professor Dr. S.P. Singh, Vice-Chancellor, Royal Global University, Guwahati. Next on the panel is Dr. C. Rajkumar, Founding Vice-Chancellor, O.P. Jindal Global University. Next on the panel is Dr. Shivram Khara, Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Rajni Gupte, Vice-Chancellor, Symbiosis International Deemed University. Dr. Edmund Meher, Vice-Chancellor, Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University, Pune. And now introducing to you our moderator, Professor Ujjwal K. Chaudhary. He's the Pro Vice Chancellor of Adamas University. With this, I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Chaudhary.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabjot. And indeed, it's an honor today, in my opinion. I mean, we have all the panelists here have been.
Your voice.
Yeah, it's clear.
Is you on mute?
No, I'm not on mute.
No.
I'm not on mute. Can you hear me?
Hear you, sir.
We are able to hear him.
Yeah, it's clear. I believe there is a problem at your end. Okay, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Singh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
Yeah,
we can
perfectly. Let's proceed. So there have been some people say that webinars have been raining like a dozen every week. But honestly speaking, rarely would you have a webinar which actually brings some of the best minds of the country in education together. What in our early days we used to call, Rishi Munis of education. And here the Rishi Muni is gender neutral. We have both men and women. So it's gender neutral. There was Gargi also, if you remember, as a Rishi. So very rarely we have such stalwart people coming together. Today, I remember this abpeducation.com was started with a Vice-Chancellors Roundtable of Bengal. 8 Vice-Chancellors of Bengal came together. And that is still the best, viewed webinar till date. It has crossed 3 lakhs views, 300,000 views till date. And every Vice-Chancellor who had come there was so happy and had been referring it. And we learned a lot in that process. Here today, we bring to you 12 top Vice-Chancellors of the country. In the first round, 5, and then we have the others in the second round. 12 top Vice-Chancellors who are charting the next growth story or development story of Indian education, particularly higher education. I will not get into much more detailing of it. We'll get to know from them. What do they think is the post-COVID era with respect to higher education, careers, and preparing for those careers? Since it's a youth-focused program, by now I see 212 people already. I see some people from Nepal and Bangladesh also on this panel already, in the audience. And it's also an ABP Education YouTube channel as well. I would not know how many people are there on those 2 platforms. Here we can all see 219 are there at the moment. So we shall bring to you what do the top leaders of higher education today think about with respect to futuristic careers and how to prepare for those careers. The best part of this panel, we have someone from legal background. We have a couple of vice chancellors from management background. at least one from engineering background, and I think that many, and one from liberal arts background. So we have people from diverse backgrounds, technology, management, and liberal arts. And that will give us a 360-degree sort of an approach at a time when new education policy calls for breaking the barriers between art, science, and commerce. At a time when education is taking a big leap with a 4 years graduation and a 2 years post-graduation ahead. At a time when preschool education is going to get a fillip. And this combination of major, minor is going to change the vista of education ahead. Choice-based credit system was already introduced sometime earlier, but it goes to the next level, hopefully, with the new education policy. Yes, questions can be raised with respect to investment in public education, which is abysmally low at this point of time. But then the vision has started to be on the right track. So I have the pleasure now to call the Honorable Vice-Chancellors one by one. And the first Vice-Chancellor that I call is Dr. S.P. Singh. Dr. S.P. Singh is the Vice-Chancellor of Royal Global University. And I'm so happy to welcome a former colleague of mine. Both of us were once upon a time at Amit University as well. He has worked in 7 universities and several management institutions. And I have the pleasure now to call him to speak on the 3 most coveted careers ahead post-COVID times. And how do these youngsters who are listening to us, the 258 of them at this point of time on Zoom, I'm sure more than 1,000 would be otherwise in YouTube and Facebook, and many more would be viewing. How do they prepare for those 3 coveted careers? Over to Dr. Sanjay Pratap Singh.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Ujjwal, my esteemed colleagues, Vice-Chancellors from Symbiosis University, O.P. Jindal University, Sharda University, Professor Khara, Dr. Rajini Gupta, Professor C. Rajkumar, and all other eminent panelists, Dr. Edmond Meher. This is really a great opportunity for me, especially to talk on something which is very, very important in present time with respect to in the background of new national education policy. Also during the COVID time and during the tsunami of webinar time, whatever is happening around us. I would say that the new education.
I believe there is a disconnect there. Dr. Singh is disconnected. We'll get back to him the moment he comes back and the connection or the power is restored there. It seems there is a power problem. No problem. We go ahead. Well, our next Vice Chancellor who would be speaking, I have immense respect for him. I have known of him. We have met a couple of times and I've been observing him from a distance. Someone who becomes a Vice Chancellor at just 34 years of age and takes up a responsibility, a challenge coming from outside India, taking a responsibility in India to create a truly global university. I'm talking of Dr. C. Rajkumar. Dr. C. Rajkumar, the founding Vice Chancellor of O.P. Jindal Global University, the only university that has come within the Institutes of Eminence by Government of India and has been also in QS ranking and is creating waves in higher education. So over to Dr. C. Rajkumar to speak about the choicest or the futuristic careers ahead and how do these youngsters go towards that.
Thank you very much, Professor Chaudhary, for your kind words, and I deeply appreciate the efforts of ABP and Telegraph India and other collaborators in bringing together all of us. I also want to recognize the presence of our distinguished colleague Vice Chancellors from different universities. Since the time is short, I'll quickly jump into the question that Dr. Chaudhary asked. You know, no doubt about the fact that COVID-19 has fundamentally challenged the entire landscape of higher education in India and around the world. And most of all, it has also challenged very many perspectives as to what kind of careers, study opportunities are going to be, let's say, defining the future of young people. I would go a step further. In fact, what COVID-19 has done is pretty much, is reinforced whatever many of us in the field of higher education were already seeing, a tectonic shift in the way higher education and the impact of higher education on the wider range of careers was anyways taking place. There were new generation of career opportunities which were being defined, and new areas of study opportunities which were shaping that as well. So to jump into the question that Dr. Chaudhary asked us, I might be a slightly biased disciplinarily, but I will still stick it out and say that I strongly believe, not only because of the fact that I've obtained 4 law degrees from different parts of the world, including India, I do believe that careers in law is going to be shaping a significant part of the future, regardless of all these changes that are happening, including the crisis that we are facing today. Law and legal careers related to law are going to be, let's say, almost both crisis proof and recession proof, in the sense that even when economic changes are going to be taking place, we will have enough opportunities for lawyers to be able to assume a leadership role in pretty much determining the regulatory framework on the basis of which businesses and organizations need to govern. It also is going to be based upon our ability to understand what is the right thing to do, including legal and constitutional framework that governs particularly democracies, and also to protect the rights of individuals, including human rights. So law and legal careers is one such thing. The second obvious thing, which I believe is going to shape the future, is a range of careers emerging out of the healthcare sector. Here I mean careers not just in the field of medicine, which of course is going to be the case, but I am talking about allied careers in medicine, including careers surrounding public health, mental health, and healthcare management. These are going to be very important areas in the future. The next pandemic, unfortunately, may not be far away as we try to address this one as well. So the second big aspect is, and here it's important for us to recognize that we don't have public health schools in India as much as we should. We don't have good ones at least. There is going to be a huge, possible demand for this. And the third career opportunity I believe is going to be important is the intersection of technology, innovation, and management. Here I'm talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, and a whole range of career opportunities that are going to emerge, not necessarily on the technical side, but on the policy side. Not just the role of engineering, but also people who are able to marry different disciplines and are able to provide, let's say, both knowledge and perspectives in these sectors. So in my view, these 3 areas are going to significantly shape the future for a very long time to come. We are barely in the early stages of this kind of evolution, and I believe, and there is a lot of interface surrounding these 3 as well. The interface of law and public health, law and technology, healthcare and management, and of course, innovation and management. So these are the 3 things that I believe are important in the future.
Thank you. Very well said, sir. And we'll get back. There are questions already coming for you, but we'll get back. And I can also request the Vice Chancellors that they can go to the chat box and keep answering any question you want, so that they also feel connected and taken note of. The audience feels connected and taken note of. So anyone can go into any of the questions and keep answering, but I will also pick up the questions for the Honorable Vice Chancellors to answer. So Dr. Rajkumar has spoken about law careers, a broad healthcare gamut of careers, and careers at the intersection of technology, innovation, and business. We go back to Dr. Singh, whom we lost for a moment. So Dr. Singh, yes, Dr. Singh, please.
So I think Professor Rajkumar, I could join on time, and I was listening to all 3 careers he talked about. Now I think my job has become a little easier as well as difficult also, because 3 most important career he already spoken about. But I will add on from my discipline, the discipline of management. I think one of the very, very important, which is going to come up and maybe very innovative also in my opinion, is about the millennial experts. Millennial.
It's so unfortunate that we are possibly losing him again. I will just wait for 2-3 seconds. If we do not get him back, we will go to the next speaker and get back to Dr. Singh again.
Dr. Chaudhary, one thing we can
Yeah.
request Dr. S.P. Singh when he comes back is for him to maybe switch off the video.
Right.
And maybe
Agreed.
we
I
can
had
use
thought.
lesser bandwidth and speak.
Right. Perfectly okay. Right. We'll go to the next speaker, Dr. Shivram Khara. I had the pleasure of participating in a couple of other webinars with him. He is from the engineering background, and he has been already in the past honored as the best research faculty from the School of Electronics Engineering, VIT University, Vellore. And his research articles all over the world have been published in many, many conferences and seminars in engineering. I'm not getting into that. Today, Sharda University is taking moving by leaps under the leadership of Dr. Shivram Khara. Over to you, sir, for your choicest careers. And good to see you back again once again.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everybody. And let's come back to the skills. Since from the engineering background, I want to highlight that the next generation skills or future skills, it will be the skills related to real-time connections between or interactions between human machines and objects, which will be arising from the fact of the development of smart systems, the Industry 4.0, and many related disruptive technology, which will have mutual impact over each other. So Industry 4.0, where sensor networking, applications of IoT, and then artificial intelligence, machine learning, clouds, and big data will be the core technology to provide the automations and all kind of solutions to make the system smart. Now, in this very smart system or a smart domain, and then big data driven quality control decisions, the management rightfully told by expressing that in management also the managerial skill will change now, because the job profiles, the traversal skills, the competency, interpersonal creativity, and then administration, management, maintenance, customer support, logistics, because the most of the things on real time in the smart system, a very man-machine interaction will be there. So in that case, the skills, the managerial skills profile will change. So next generation graduates should be prepared for that, because the IoT, AI, and ML will become the language for providing the solutions for every field. It may be engineering, science, business, real estate, manufacturing, finance, healthcare, environment, agriculture, humanity, society. So nothing should be left out, that where the artificial intelligence or big data based quality control and then the prediction and behavior can be determined. In that case, without knowing the basic technology aspects, and based on these applications, the managerial skill will change. So that is a very, very important skills. The near future, it will going to revolutionize once the Industry 4.0 takes up. And Government of India already has taken up under National Productivity Council, and they have identified almost 100 industry now in initial phase to go ahead with that. And in new education policy, the agriculture also they are going to revive, say 1% intake to 6 to 9% intake, and the entire agriculture systems to be renovated. And rightfully told Professor Raj, the healthcare. You already news is that in the Greater Noida, a biggest healthcare manufacturing setup is going to be there. And then your aerospace technology, which is the next generation technology, and it will revolutionize anything. So these are the two sectors already in northern India. The companies are coming up, and UP government is providing the space, and these are the technology. So healthcare and aerospace technology will be very, very important. But here I want to highlight few things that as in national education policy, they are clearly mentioning that thoughtful, well-rounded, across discipline, creative and innovative individuals will be produced, whatever objective they have set up. And then from job seekers to job providers, and then lifelong learning skill and well-versed in cognitive skills. So in multidisciplinary domain, the overall knowledge, overall skills is very, very important to give the global solutions, complete solutions, instead of proposing certain part of the solutions. So that will be a very, very important aspects. And then adaptability of the graduates. So adaptive skills should be there, because the knowledge technology environment and disruptive technology are changing so fast, even due to the pandemic and other environmental things which is happening. So adaptability to adapt in different activity, in different scenario, and even in different domain will be very challenging for the next generation graduates. So they should be lifelong learners, and they should be ever ready to adapt to the new technology to provide new solutions. So in that respect, the adaptive skills will be very, very important. And lastly, since India is looking for making self-reliant India, a very creative and design thinking will be very, very important. And then coding skills, since it is now coming from the school level, will be the important skills in the next generation. So that for making the self-reliant India, start off making India, digital India, innovation, incubation, entrepreneurship, and leading to MSME. So entrepreneurial skills will be very, very important. Thank you very much for
Thank
giving
you.
me the opportunity.
Thank you. We'll come back with questions more. Please look into the questions and in question and answers, and also in the chat box. And sir, you could continue with answering those questions as we move ahead. There will be 2-3 rounds, so sir, please stay back. Very important aspects have been mentioned by Dr. Khara. AI/ML undoubtedly is now a very large area that's focusing now. AI/ML, IoT and sensors, Internet of Things, blockchain. I would add sustainable energy, because sustainable energy in the COVID has shown that the non-renewable energy resources would be very limited going ahead, and sustainable energy would be very important. Smart city, IoT and smart city connected together. Smart city is the new future of civil engineering also. Adaptability and design thinking, very well mentioned, and we would have more questions on that. Please continue asking several questions, to the panelists, and the panelists keep answering them as well. Before I move to the next speaker, I would like to give, in the light of what has been discussed and what I also personally believe, COVID has been a hated word. COVID has been a hated word, and everyone's life is impacted, if not on standstill anymore. Whenever there is a crisis, the first impact or the first reaction is shock. Shock followed by disbelief. Disbelief followed by anger. Ye kyun hai? Aisa kyun hua? China, then you find a culprit, China. You know that. And then gradually you understand the situation is very different than what you had known so far. And therefore, gradually you move to acceptance. Acceptance, and now we have started talking about acceptance, new normal. We are talking on those terms. Going ahead, the important part is integration. Integration into the new normal and rediscovery, reinvention. Can we look at rediscovery and reinvention of each of us, of our organizations, and thereby the nation? I'm just raising this question. We'll raise many more questions as we go ahead, and our honorable Vice Chancellors can take them up and the other questions as well. I have now the pleasure of calling the only lady on the panel this time. And by the way, that's one of the points my friends in ABP also knows, and others wherever I've been going, that any panel discussion, I will participate only when it is not a male panel. Not because of just token representation, but because of perspectives, various perspectives that can come through. If the panel is a mixed panel. So no manel in any panel. This is a slogan I would like to put before you. Before I invite Dr. Rajani Gupte, my very beloved and highly competent colleague once upon a time. Today, I'm so happy to see her as the Vice Chancellor of Symbiosis University. A lady with a golden smile always, even under stress, even under challenges. I don't think she is stressed out anytime. There can be challenges in life. So over to Dr. Rajani Gupte about her perspective on futuristic careers and how to achieve them. Dr.
Thank
Gupte.
you, Dr. Chaudhary. Thank you so much. Thank you, ABP, for giving me this opportunity to address the students over here. And I'm delighted to be amongst other colleague vice-chancellors. In 2018, Dell Technologies came up with a report which said that 85% of the jobs that people will do in 2030 have not even begun to exist as yet. Now, this created a huge furor. I think students started feeling, what are we learning? Educational institutions started wondering, introspecting, are we doing the right thing? But somewhere, I believe very strongly that every generation sees change. Let me give you my own example. When I was in college, we were in a place called Nasik, and there were horse-driven carts in Nasik at that point of time. And auto rickshaws had just begun to be introduced. Now, obviously, this was a huge change that one saw at that point of time. Similarly, my generation saw photocopy machines come in, saw switchboards, telephone operators, all these jobs disappeared. Surgeons of my generation learned robotic surgery, something that they had not been taught when they were in medical school. So I believe very strongly that the role of education is, of course, to give you content, but in addition, what it does and should do is to teach students how to adapt to change, how to learn things quickly. In fact, Alvin Toffler, a management guru way back in the 1970s and 80s, said that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Of course, today the pace of change is very fast. So what my generation saw was much slower than what you will encounter as you go ahead in your careers. To my mind, the driver of this change is, of course, information technology. All of us hear about artificial intelligence, big data analytics, cloud technology, mobile internet, high-speed mobile internet, and a host of other things. This will therefore be the pivot of all the changes that we are going to see in the future. I feel that there will be three things that will happen because of this. Jobs that are today easy for machines to do will get done by them in the years to come. Something which is mechanical, something which is routine will be done by machines. Secondly, some cognitive skills that used to be very highly valued at one point of time. It's like memorization. Today, you don't really need that skill. So such skills will go away, but the need for skills like, thinking in ambiguous situations, coping with ambiguity, coping with uncertain times, complex decision making, something that a machine will not be able to do, critical analytical skills. And of course, the third thing that I visualize, therefore, is that organizations which will recruit students will also be looking at these skill sets and testing these skill sets. In fact, even today, you have organizations which do neuropsychological tests, which do behavioral tests, which play neuropsychological games with students to be able to evaluate their skill sets. So in addition to domain, it's these skill sets or these soft skills that are going to become very, very critical in the years to come. Any successful career in the future is, to my mind, going to be transdisciplinary, exactly like what Dr. Rajkumar said. They will be transdisciplinary. Knowledge will grow at the intersection of disciplines. Let me give you a couple of examples. And here, I think I'm required to talk about three disciplines or three careers. I'm going to talk about three broad areas. First is information technology, which I'm sure everybody is talking about. But the kind of jobs that are talked about now are not just pure coding or programming. Maybe data scientists will look at statistics and machine learning. So you don't need to learn just one discipline, you need to be multidisciplinary. Cybersecurity, again, information technology, psychology, forensics, all of this will be coming. An interesting area that's developing is virtual reality and augmented reality. Somewhere where now we are talking about immersive experiences. So something that's going to be used possibly by maybe in health, in education, in tourism. I can think of multiple areas in which augmented reality can give excellent results to young people. We also talk about simplicity engineers in the future, because things are so complicated now. There's so much overload of things that engineering skills and complex problem solving skills are going to be needed for this kind of a job. We are also talking about neural interface design, where again, user experience design is going to be important, understanding brain functions, data analytics. So when I talk about IT as a broad domain, you would have noticed that I'm talking about things like psychology coming in, things like design coming in. So it's, and of course, data analytics. So all of this is something that I feel will happen in information technology. The second broad area that I think will be, of course, healthcare, which again has been mentioned earlier. Here with technology advancing, again, you see things like we read about organ creators. You will have organs being developed, and this will involve people who will understand not only molecular biology and biomedical engineering, but also tissue engineering. So it's a host of things that they will need to learn. Bioethics consultants, as we become more and more a machine-oriented economy, we need to understand the ethics of using machines. How do we deal with machines coming into our lives? Human machine integration specialists could come up to help us cope with the anxiety of dealing with machines. We would have home health aides with aging populations. This is something that's going to come up. Again, a need for high EQ, of course, domain knowledge, knowledge of psychology. So it's not just healthcare, it's actually spread again across disciplines. In waste management, there can be many, many applications and relating to health, of course. Things like biofilm installers. This is something which will actually, in the future, look at removing wastage from within the house. So you're looking at installing this kind of biofilms, which will destroy waste at the point at which it emerges. Microbiology, structural engineering. So you can see that you are now marrying disciplines together. And I think this is really where young people today will have to start broadening their horizons. The last broad area is, of course, management, something that many of us have already talked about. With logistics becoming important, with the scale of operations across the globe becoming important, drone managers will be important. Agile supply chain management, looking at how do you manage engineering, logistics, data, big data, supply chain management. Waste management will be a very, very key area again. Garbage disposal is a huge problem. And how does one deal with this problem using multiple disciplines, not just the area of managing it, but of course looking at also biochemistry to help you with that. A related area could be climate change reversal specialists. Right. So looking at the new education policy, it does foster and allow you to take majors, minors, look at electives. So my last word on this is whatever career you choose, I think you should be prepared to have a lifelong learning. You must have the mindset to learn on your own. A research survey showed that, when they surveyed people across countries, they found that people in the US and UK, about 80% of them said it is their own responsibility to equip themselves. Whereas in India and China, this was around 50%, where we felt that it is the role of the government or the organization to train me. Somewhere this mindset needs to change, and you in your careers in the next 40, 50 years will have to understand that you will have multiple careers, multiple jobs. So continuously training, retraining is going to be very, very important. Don't forget to focus on soft skills, because that's going to be equally critical. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gupte. Very well said. Learn, unlearn, and relearn, and lifetime learning. One has to understand there is no lifetime career, as has been rightly mentioned now. And there has to be, therefore, flexibility of mind, skills, and attitude to welcome new learnings as someone goes ahead. Once upon a time, IT was an industry, IT was a career. Today, IT is foundation of every industry and every career. So it has become IT-enabled services. It has become digital at the core. And therefore, this whole thing has happened in the last maybe 8-10 years and has got a huge leapfrogging through the COVID crisis. And therefore, we cannot be depending on whatever we learned once upon a time to survive all our lives. Very rightly said. And you also talked about the problem-solving engineering or problem-solving attitude. See, anything that can be repeated will be taken over by machines, will be taken over by robotics. So anything which cannot be repeated, that means anything which is problem-solving, critical thinking, creative, First time template, these will be in human hands. Teamwork, leadership based, these will be in human hands, because artificial intelligence can only function, robotics can only function on pre-templated softwares or parameters. So moving ahead, there has to be learning to learn how to be different, how to get into newer careers. We move to the last speaker, but not the least, and of the first round, because we'll go second and third round also with your questions. I appreciate so many questions coming. I really appreciate people joining from Bangladesh and Nepal as well, as I can see, and questions coming on various fields. We'll take them up. Have some patience. Let's listen to the Vice Chancellor's one round. I have now the pleasure of to invite someone who is Australian by birth, talking to you from Belgium, but is the Vice Chancellor of a university in Pune. And she is the Vice Chancellor of Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University in Pune. And concurrent with this responsibility, Dr. Edmund Maher, who is often called, as is popularly and lovingly called as Ed. Ed is a professor at Antwerp Management School in Belgium. So we have Dr. Maher speaking from Belgium about the futuristic careers and how to achieve them. Over to Dr. Ed.
Well, thank you for the kind invitation, and I'm humbled to be among such great company. So thank you. I really appreciate it, and hope that the comments are of some help and use. I'll highlight two careers, but just to give a little background, if we're looking at emerging universities, we're really largely looking at, I think more than ever before, links between industry and community organizations, agencies, and the university itself, higher education itself. And so one of the ideas I'll talk about later, we'll link to that. And the second is just to reinforce comments that have already been made of the T-shaped professional, that whatever career we're suggesting, whatever fields we're suggesting, of course, we have to have a deep specialization in those fields, but also important is to be able to work across with other fields and be able to interact with other fields so that we get, I suppose, cohesive and comprehensive responses. The COVID-19 situation is interesting, and I wondered to what extent it's accelerating directions we were already heading in. And as the points have been made, the very obvious one is use of IT and how our use of that has become so much more critical, but that's a direction we've been heading in for so long anyhow. And it's led us to question things like travel and whether we can work remotely, and environmental issues and pollution, probably more sharply than we've looked at before. The question is, when we come out of the COVID-19 crisis, will we apply what we've learned over the long term? So I hope we do. The first field that I'd like to just speak briefly about is engineering, because looking at the enrollment data for our university and looking at the student inquiries, we're just getting an exponential increase in the field of engineering. And so I've been speaking with the head of our engineering school in recent days, and certainly looking back over some of the things they've done over the last year. But we were talking about, I asked him just to nominate a few fields. He nominated 12. But the particular approach that is most useful in this area is centering around genuine needs for individuals, for groups, for companies, for businesses. And so it's pioneering in that area, it's innovation in that area. And of the fields that are really emerging and the courses that are now being offered based on those fields, we're seeing really strong trend in mechatronics, in biomedical engineering, in data engineering, artificial intelligence, full stack development, human-computer interaction, biocomputation, mechanical design, mobile application and information security, mobile application and cloud technology, blockchain technology, and augmented and virtual reality. And so this is what the engineering department has highlighted to me as the areas that they obviously run courses in, but these are really strong areas of growth and demand. And we can see from the previous speakers as well how these areas are entirely applicable. I'll give an example from a PhD candidate that I'm currently supervising. And in the particular, I don't want to give away too much because his research is his research, but in the field he's working in up until recently, they could process 30,000 in 2 weeks of these particular documents that he needed to process for his work. And through his research, he's been able to up that to 1 million. 1 million documents, and he does it in 3 days. So can you imagine the implications of that, not only for the company he's working in and in that particular field, but also more broadly? So he now has a meeting with the company executives in the next 2 weeks to look at how this can be applied in other departments in the company. So that's one area, this area of data analysis. The second area I want to highlight, which I very rarely hear about, but it's very important, education. How important is education, now and post-COVID-19 and in a globalized world where our competitor is anybody, anywhere in the world? So how important is education as an emerging field? And I think we've realized as well through having to do remote learning, how important it is that we have this face-to-face interaction and how unique the skill is of being able to impart knowledge and bring students along. And I think many of us are realizing that remote learning is exceptionally difficult in comparison with face-to-face. And so the research is showing in the last 10 years that what we're really trying to do in remote learning is to emulate the face-to-face experience. So I would like to fly the flag for education and say that if we think about industry partnerships, that companies don't really want to spend money these days on training their staff. They want plug and play, ready to go, people who have got the qualifications and the skills right away to get in and do the job. And that they want this naturally lifelong learning and universities to be able to provide learning in non-traditional ways. So I'd like to fly the flag for education as a growing and fundamental field for the future.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate the flagging of mechatronics and also biocomputation, information security here. And being from media, I very much welcome the reference to augmented and virtual reality, because much of even education will take advantage of augmented and virtual reality going ahead. Indeed, these areas have already highlighted, as has been highlighted by all the 5 vice chancellors, are the future areas. So I will just take 2 questions from the audience and then come back for a second round with questions to specific vice chancellors. One of the commonest things that people are asking, that while these advanced areas can be availed by certain urban section of the population and certain educated and coming from middle to upper middle class families, a large number of youngsters are beyond the digital access. It's known, we know that, but none of the vice chancellors or the media house which is organizing it are responsible for this digital divide. A society which is economically divided is bound to be digitally divided also, and particularly in the hinterland when urban rural divide itself is contributing to a digital divide. I strongly believe, just like Roti Kapda Makan, Siksha and Swasth, 5 are elements of dignified life. Post-pandemic, the 6th element is digital access. And digital, along with digital access, the new definition of literacy is digital literacy. The old literacy of signing your name and you are illiterate is completely obsolete. And in this scenario, all 3, the government, the corporate, and the civil society, all 3 have responsibilities towards bridging this digital divide. The government, by increasing investment in creating digital access, I'm happy to see that 6% is promised in new education policy, whereas the reality is it's only 2.4% of the annual budget today. Some of the state governments have started spending more than 5%. Most of the developing and the developed nations of the world spend more than 5% in public education. We spend 2.4%. New education policy promises 6%. This additional 3.5 or 3.6 can be dedicated to digital access first, because that will create the hunger, that will satiate the hunger of education. Let's not forget, 2 young ladies of class 10 and 11 have committed suicide in Kerala because they could not access digital education. They did not have the wherewithals or resources for doing that. Also the corporate sector, 2% of CSR, 2% of profit is to be given for CSR, corporate social responsibility, according to the law of the government. Can this CSR be focused on digital access for the next 2 years? Can all the companies making profit contribute 2% purely to digital access? Because that is where a lot of difference will happen in the lives of the common man. And individually, individual social responsibility, you and I, please search homes, do have an old laptop, do have an old mobile, and there are NGOs who are starting 1 million mobile campaign, 1 million laptop campaign. Can we contribute to that campaign? Can the telecom companies, just like we have student discounts of train and bus fare, can we have discounts for internet packages? These are some of the ideas to bridge the digital divide, but asking the same question over and over again to the Vice Chancellors will not have an answer, because we are not the policy makers. We can contribute from our institutes, we can contribute individually, we can ask the government to increase investment, we can ask the government, corporate to increase CSR. And that's what I have just tried to do that. That was one component of the question that has been coming repeatedly. I will take a few questions from the question bank, the questions that are coming from the audience. And can we have our Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, answering that? There's Subhrokanti Ghosh asking, is computer science and business system, I think he's talking about computer and business coming together, a good career to opt for, as it is a very new stream to opt for? Please answer. So computer science and business together. So Dr. Rajkumar, would you like to speak on that? How a career which combines computing and business can be of great worth and help? Dr. Rajkumar?
Absolutely, yes. No, absolutely. I think, as you rightly said, and the spirit of the discussion that we're having today is gone are the days when single discipline studies are going to, lead to meaningful job opportunities. The trend has been, and that's not just a COVID-19 situation, but even before, the writing was on the wall. Many of us didn't notice it, but the reality is people are expecting to have, degrees and qualifications and experiences from different disciplines. In fact, the emergence of dual degree programs around the world is part of the effort to, bring together schools, pedagogies, and learning experiences and learning outcomes and research capacities from different schools and programs to combine that. And computers and business is going to be, I'll say one thing, the interface of this requires institutional reimagination. It cannot be structured on the basis of existing schools and programs. So a lot of work has to happen within universities for this to have a meaningful impact, because ultimately most universities, not just in India and or around the world, are so much silos when it comes to different faculties and schools, and there is little or no interaction whatsoever between the schools, let alone programs. So this type of emergence of these work opportunities will expect universities, colleges, institutions to reimagine their historically evolved approach towards developing independent schools and programs with little opportunity for faculty members to come together and doing things. I also think that the industry interface in this will become very important, because it's not going to be only faculty led of the universities. There's going to be a lot more partnerships and collaborations in which the role of industry need to be much more appreciated by the universities.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Please be there. There will be many more questions we'll be picking up. My next question is for Dr. Edmund Maher. Sir, there is a question from Devanjana Sen. She's asking, what about pursuing post-graduation in biophysics, environmental science, atmospheric science, or bioinformatics? If you could look into that area, those areas, any opinion on that? Dr. Edmund Maher. Dr. Edmund, are you there?
Coming. I'm coming.
Yeah. Biophysics, yes. Environment science.
Have you got the cameras up? Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are not my fields, but I think what's interesting about your question is that interdisciplinary studies are the new move. And particularly at doctoral level, we're seeing more and more that people are not narrowing down into one field, but are doing fields that traditionally may have been separate, but are actually interdisciplinary. So yeah, I could easily, refer you to people who could advise you for the postgraduate side for those particular fields. But I would definitely say that go for as much as possible interdisciplinary, because as fields emerge, we're seeing that people who are specialists, even in our own university, are needing to shift their research focus. And even they feel it's a shift of field. It's not, but they're needing to make significant shifts. So I would only encourage, but would not want to get down into answering a question on a field that's not my doctoral research area.
Fine, thank you. Dr. Anup Kumar Chakravarti also asked similar question on bioinformatics, genomics, and biotechnology. Yes, application of artificial intelligence in the field of biotechnology is on the rise. And particularly the pandemic, and as Dr. Rajkumar said earlier, there could be another pandemic sometime later, and it may not be very long time from now. And this pandemic itself can have different mutations. So therefore, the focus on health sciences or health science affiliated subjects would be strong. So it's not about just biotechnology, but also microbiology, biochemistry, virology, immunology, and genomics. These would be there as a focus area of higher career. Those who have done life sciences, or let's say any life science related graduation, they should go for post-graduation in any of these specialized areas. Even in my university, at Adams University, we have 6-7 postgraduate specialization in these areas, and I'm sure that's true for many of the universities in the country. We move to the next question. Fire technology and safety engineering. Dr. Shivram Khara. Shivram Khara, sir, would you have any opinion or suggestion on BTech in fire technology and safety engineering courses? How and what do you think is the future of that, Dr. Khara? Dr. Khara, are you there?
Thank you, Dr. Ujjwal Chaudhary. Although it is not my subject, but still, as a technology viewpoint, I can give few words on this. If any engineering program on safety and security, probably it's very important now, because the applying the technology to provide the security, and then this is the one aspects of the application parts, but to devise a very good security technology, probably that will be the subject of the engineering, still in demand, because the camera, the bandwidth, and the infrastructure required. So the picture quality, and then the data compression techniques, and then your bandwidth reduce when we compress the data, and you actually reduce the bandwidth for a huge security system, maybe in an entire smart city. So in security will be always important, because inside the campus, inside the organizations, in the building, and society, and in entire city, and even anywhere. In that case, one part will be the technology aspect, how you improve the technology to bring about the quality of the image and compress the data, and for data transmission you have a good protocol to reduce the bandwidth. And other thing will be the networking part.
Thank you.
Because it will be the IoT based,
right,
and entire security system, even inside the campus, your a common security center will be there, which will be monitoring all the sections, and it will be analyzing the data, and then real-time situational the alertness will be given, and then a lot of monitoring will be there. I think it is important aspect.
Thank you. We will take more questions, so we'll keep the answers brief, but very well said, sir. I would also add that artificial intelligence in security would be on the rise, and security systems are going to be very different from what we knew earlier. Even recently, I mean, before pandemic, I had been to Dubai, and I saw that several large premises have a security system inside and beyond, where human interface is not there. It is a completely artificial intelligence and machine learning driven security. So obviously, security systems and engineering technologies there would be of great importance. There's a question from Rana Bhumik, and he's asking how, I wish to understand how global skills can be taken to various institutions for passing on to the coming generations. Dr. Rajkumar, yours is a global university that you're trying to create from Delhi, and Dr. S.P. Singh is trying to do the same thing from Assam. So Dr. Rajkumar, I appreciate the success of being an institute of eminence, Jindal Global University, and also getting QS ranking. How are you bringing global standards to JDU, the Jindal Global University, JGU, Dr. Rajkumar?
Thank you very much, Dr. Chaudhary. I think, well, let me begin by saying that the national education policy has really created a new imagination for Indian higher education by focusing on the idea of world-class universities. The vision of world-class universities was actually given a very strong thrust within the national education policy. And to that extent, there are very strong regulatory reforms proposed, an effort to promote internationalization, digitization, benchmarking, rankings, accreditation, assessment, significant research funding. The whole ecosystem is being promoted. Now, from our standpoint, it was not just something that we decided now. At our founding itself, we were very clear that OP Jindal Global University was the very vision of this university was to create an institution of global excellence, and that was done through a number of things. First, we were committed to hiring faculty from around the world. Nearly 17% of our full-time faculty members are non-Indian nationals recruited from over 32 different countries and regions in the world, including from India. That also means that the rest of the faculty members whom we have, Indians themselves, are people who have strong international background. And that was not, the purpose of that was to recognize the need for connecting with the world at large. And that could include teaching opportunities, research opportunities, educational opportunities, and all of that. The second was our strong commitment to promote research through our 55 research centers and 3 research and capacity building institutes, all of which are driven by our faculty. The third is our strong commitment to promoting internationalization through partnerships. We have over 250 partnerships across 55 different countries in which we have established 10 different forms of partnerships. These include faculty exchange, student exchange, joint teaching, joint research, joint conferences, joint publications, dual degree programs, short-term study abroad programs, inward mobility immersion programs, and joint executive education programs. In some ways, this integration of connecting India and the world, JGU and universities around the world, was part of the founding vision and continued to shape our mission. Now, of course, in more recent times, we have elevated that capacity to recognize the need for promoting dual degree programs as well as inward mobility of students from different parts of the world coming to Jindal and to India.
Great. This is a roadmap for globalization indeed. And you have actually, I'm so happy to say that 2 of my past students, Devdeep and Pratiksha, have been working with you, and they are mesmerized. They are so charmed about the series of activities that have been going on there. And I really appreciate, this is really a roadmap for globalization. Dr. Singh, I really appreciate the phenomenal work, Dr. S.P. Singh, that you are doing in Northeast India. Northeast, where the new skills and new areas are just now being promoted, just now being evolved, but there is no dearth of talent there. So what are you doing to create a national and a global standard university in the Northeast? If you could throw some light on that. Dr. S.P. Singh. Yes, Dr. Singh, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Professor Ujjwal. I think first of all, I apologize for some
okay.
problem.
No problem. Just continue.
So, we situated in Northeast India, and with the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister and Government of India, with respect to not look East policy and act East policy. And Vishwavidyalaya, the university in general, if we say in Hindi, it's a Vishwavidyalaya. We all universities, we write global or we don't write global, we are global in approach. So the global approach is with all the universities. And however, sitting in the Northeast India, we are going to be the growth engine or pivot for the whole development of the Southeast Asian countries and the surrounding areas. That may be Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, Bhutan, and all neighboring nations and maybe nations beyond. We have a connectivity there, and we are in touch with most of the universities in this area. And we are going to be gradually global with respect to having more interaction with these universities in the surrounding area. However, with the digital age or maybe new normal after post-COVID time, we are in a position to connect throughout the country and the world, and many, many webinars, especially webinars we have connected through, and the students are well versed with and being acquainted with many things happening around the world in different universities and institutions across different nations. So that is one aspect. As far as the global thinking is concerned, our vision itself says that we are there to create global citizens. Global citizens can be created only by global exposure, and that exposure is not limited to exposure to the universities. That is also related to the exposure of these children to different universities across the world. And for that, we have got MOUs. We are only 3 years old university, but we have got global MOUs, we have got international MOUs, and we are utilizing that for not only research, a joint research program, joint consultancy, joint training programs, but also about the student exchange. So we have a global vision, and for that we are going in the right direction, and Royal Global University is definitely moving in that direction. Professor Ujjwal, you visited us, you know it very well. We are in the same direction. I just wanted to add two career, probably I've heard everybody.
Right.
Just very creative 2 careers. One is that I always say is going to be something about emotional intelligence related career, where because of this pandemic time and later on also, we know lifelong learners, we know learning, unlearning and relearning. We know career, like in my life, I think was Dr. Rajni Gupte was expressing, I in my life have changed 3 careers so far. I mean, career from geologist to manager and now into a new domain of law. I every 10 years try to change because I want to live with change. So therefore the lifelong learner and lifelong to live change. This is very important, and I would say that this Chaussat Kalas, which has been indicated in 11.1 of National Education Policy about Kadambini and all those things, that is which is required. We should be jack of all and master of one and ready for the change throughout. And for that we require specialized people. One career along with education, training, and also people who guide career and not guide anybody, can guide me, can guide Professor Ujjwal, you also. The high-end consultancy, high-end managers are required to guide people for new career, and they should be strategically, because my subject is strategic management. I should foresee and analyze that what is going to be the career in next 4 years for Professor Ujjwal, for me, for anybody for that matter. And those kind of expertise consultants will be required. That is going to be a very challenging career that I wanted to add on.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate high-end consulting. That's another very big area. Dr. Anup Chakravarti, you are right. The BSc AI, Big Data Analytics and Robotics, and BTech in these domains are very big areas. BSc for 3 years, BTech for 4 years. And even in our university, we have introduced 22 new engineering degrees, including all of these that you have mentioned. Very rightly said, Dr. Chakravarti. A question for Dr. Rajni Gupte. There has been several people like Vikas Mohan, like Saugata Goswami, asking the question repeatedly about what would be the changes in the domain of education and learning, and thereby what would be the careers of educators of tomorrow. If you can talk about educators, education management, and changes in the domain of education for tomorrow. Dr. Rajni Gupte.
Yeah. Professor Ujjwal, all of us belong to the domain of teaching. Right. And I think we know very clearly that the profession of teaching is undergoing a massive change.
Right.
Again, technology is impacting the way we deal with our students, especially in COVID times. Since people are not able to come to campus, we have had to look at alternatives where we can reach out to them through online classes. However, this is not something that is just something which is now we've been forced into it. But there are, even earlier, there were several attempts where people have been trying out blended learning, where we are trying to embed technology in the way we teach. So I think going forward, educators will have to understand how to use technology in the classroom. We'll have to understand how to make it more interesting and more engaging for the students. This requires training, and I think universities like mine and many of yours, must be training faculty in technopedagogy, which is now a critical component of the faculty's training.
Right. Indeed. Indeed. So, ma'am, what would be the guys who are studying B.Ed, for example, M.Ed, for example, or completing PhD to enter into university education? What 2 or 3 suggestions you will have for them?
First of all, be very strong in your domain.
Right.
Right. Make sure that your knowledge is current. Be very, very strong in what you're teaching. Learn about pedagogy. Learn about how adults learn. If you're going to teach in a university, understand andragogy very, very well. Try and do courses on andragogy so that you are equipped to deal with adult learning. And third, of course, as I said, learn to use techniques which are very engaging and which make the class lively for the students. Because attention span of students is over the years going down, and therefore engaging with students is very critical.
Very nice. Very well said. Thank you, ma'am. Andragogy. That's pedagogy is more for the learners at a student level. Andragogy is for the adult learners.
Adults, yes.
And adult learning will be a critical point when people are changing careers mid-career, mid-age. And adult learning abilities, I have been seeing so many organizations coming up for adult learning, whether it's Emeritus Learning or many others, in fact, Coursera and many more, who are trying to bring in adult learning. But that's a very big area that you have rightly pointed out. Someone has just picked up the question on medical engineering, I think Sanjit Kumar De. Yes, and as has been rightly told by Dr. Singh, that medical engineering is a great career ahead, particularly those youngsters who want to be in the field of technology and not great on mathematics, but they come from life science background. They can actually look at BMLT, for example, biomedical lab technologies, and medical lab technologies, medical engineering, and biomedical engineering, all similar areas or close to one another. Different universities have different names for them. There is a question. Okay, before I go there, can I invite Dr. Edmund Maher to speak on industry-institute relations? Because you have been, at the helms of affairs in Antwerp Business School, and then now university in India. How are you building industry-institute linkages, and particularly global linkages? Over to Dr. Maher.
Yes, I think this is a really important addition to the previous question as well. Now, in our university, we actually review the curriculum very regularly. We're a private university and we're able to be quite agile. And so we have a yearly review of the curriculum. And a part of that is that we use our industry partnerships to update. We want to know what the emerging fields and demands are. Now, there's research by Brown and Salto Otero, it's quite recent, 2018, and they went through over 21 million job advertisements, and they're showing that the majority of employers now are emphasizing job readiness. It's the most common theme. And they're also emphasizing technical skills and social skills, but less often, surprisingly, emphasizing qualifications. Now, if we consider this, that the industry is looking to actually employ graduates who can get in and just start, we have to think realistically that they can't have all of their employees up to date. So there's a role for training. So if industry is in a competitive situation, they don't want to have huge departments for training. And I think universities have a huge role to play here and link with industry to make sure that we're doing all of the latest research, that we're working really closely with companies, and that not only are we sending out our graduates who can just get in and who can actually do the job from day one, but we should be providing training to industry. So getting away from the traditional thought of just the degrees and the masters and the PhDs, but linking with industry and providing the training for actually companies. Because we're the specialists in education and research. Let's do what we're good at and let's link with companies, and it's a win-win. So this is an area that, we have very strong and examples were given of Dell. We have a partnership with Dell and many others too. And I think this is a very strong growth area. Why, in the answer to the first question, I put forward that education is actually something that should be flagged post-COVID-19.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. And almost we are coming to a point where training and education are coming closer than what the traditional paradigms of training and education were. I believe that's a good contribution, that how can you bring training on education to the industry rather than just only the youngsters for full-time degrees. And you are right, Facebook, Google, and I think one more organization have already announced that they would be looking not at degrees, but at only skills while appointing. Degree will not be a necessary condition. So university degree shall not be a necessary condition. So that's—
I just wish to make clear that's not what I said.
exactly. So that's why I'm reiterating what you've said, that their times are very different than the traditional educational model. A question for Dr. Shivram Khara, please. Sheikh Masul Islam is asking, keeping in view the catastrophic outbreak of COVID-19 worldwide, what should be the feasible future roadmap for R&D to develop into India into a leadership role in science and technology, to have self-reliance in science and technology? Dr. Khara.
Yes. Say that during COVID, some of the political scenario in the world also had changed, as you have seen with our neighbor country. And India being, 1/6 populations and huge market scopes, customers are there, but we are unable to provide our own products to the citizens at low cost. So over the years, the China and neighbor countries, they have grabbed this market. So that's why self-reliant India, this concept has come. Now here, that's why in my presentation also I have told that in the Indian context, to our country, if we really want to beat the China, then in that level, the comparable technology and the skills we have to learn, and then we have to compete with the cost. So enormous opportunities are there where a lot of skill waste, and as we are talking about in new education policy, vocational training, and of course no training, no diploma, no certificate will go waste, because there are multiple exit and entry point will be there in the educations. So the training, a high-end training, and also the middle level training for giving the product level or service level solutions, and then you are coming into a competitive market and moving towards the entrepreneurship. So instead of job seekers, you are actually giving the jobs, or at least you are self-employed. So that will be the one opportunity, and other things will be there, even if it is not in comparison to China. Now India is taking up the healthcare system very seriously. As is a very vast country, the infrastructure development as well as facilitating the minimum healthcare facility to all the citizens, we need to reform the healthcare sectors. So probably the automations and medical equipment, medical devices and interworking and telemedicines, these are the things will be developed in large scale. And that's why even last week, a big industry in medical device sector has been proposed to be established in Greater Noida.
Great.
So I think in the healthcare sectors, and also in the self-reliant India. And one more aspects that the COVID has taught us, that first we have to be very, very self-sufficient in the agriculture, so that at least if any such pandemic or anything is there, people are at least self-certain, and they can carry out without having certain jobs and everything.
Right.
So depending upon too much the manufacturing sectors, where suddenly you have 33% or more, and then jobless, and they're going to the village. But again, those agriculture systems are really neglected. So these agricultural systems to be reformed. And for that also government, I think in NEP, they have emphasized that this meager 1% intake in the agriculture may be increased. So in that sector also, a lot of automations to be provided, a high-end agriculture system and to be developed. I think career opportunities will be there in that sector as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Khara. We'll come back again. Dr. Rajani, there is a question for you from Rohin Kanta N. Singh. He has written a big paragraph. The paraphrasing of it is, critical thinking in universities have got a hit because of COVID-19. How do you think critical thinking in universities would be helped? And I would add one additional question: assessment, evaluation in digital learning and in times like this is another challenge. As you know, today only Supreme Court has announced that end exams have to be taken no natural and normal, no normal promotion without any exam. This has been already announced. So assessment, evaluation, and critical thinking in current times. Dr. Rajini Gupta, please. Dr. Gupta, are you there?
Mute. Yes.
Yeah.
Let me take the assessment part of it first. Online assessment is a challenge. There's, I think, no two opinions on that. And I think we need to address this in a slightly different manner. I think all of us have got used to the system of having an examination, writing an exam. And if we try to replicate this in an online mode, that's where the challenge begins. If you try to do it differently, what are we really trying to do when we evaluate? Trying to understand whether the student has understood or has assimilated what has been communicated, what has been told to him. Whether he has understood the concept, what is the outcome of his learning, is he able to apply the concept? Now, if this can be tested on a continuous basis through a series of activities, instead of focusing on an end term examination or an end semester examination, I think that would go a long way in helping us assess. And of course, in online mode, the way we are talking about, one could also use things like a Viva, which is very time intensive, but definitely a good way to evaluate whether the student has understood or can apply the concepts that have been taught. That's about assessment.
Great. Would you like to, Madam, would you like to add open book assessment?
Oh, yes.
Completely applied based assessment?
Absolutely. I would definitely recommend open book examinations. At a time like this, when people are sitting at home and learning, it's very difficult for you to mistrust a student. So why not give him a book to study? Give him a book to study, ask him how he can apply what he has learned. So the mode of examination will have to change completely. The questions that we ask will have to change completely. We cannot have a 2-hour examination where there's a question paper given and then you start mistrusting the student. I think the method should change and it should become more trusting that the student is really learning what he is supposed to learn. That's point number one.
That's really empathetic. You have told it very empathetically. That trust
I believe
is
very strongly.
Yes, trust has to be important in evaluation. You cannot be a chore police game. Examination cannot be a chore police.
It's so pointless. I think they're here to study and we are here to make sure that they learn.
Right.
So if the objective is the same, I think trust is important.
Right.
And if they wish to learn, that's the only way forward for them.
Thank you. Critical thinking. COVID impact on critical thinking.
Yeah, activities that you do should foster critical thinking, whether in an online mode or in a physical mode. I think it's important for educationists to build in activities within their course to foster critical thinking skills.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Rajkumar, if you could also look at this issue of assessment, critical thinking. And there is a question from Saheli Karmakar about finance and accounting fields. I mean, the careers in finance and accounting, we haven't talked about that so far. So if you could look into these areas, Dr. Rajkumar.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. In fact, unfortunately, I must confess that the current debate relating to examinations, including the end-term examinations, has been unfortunately hijacked, to an extent where many people who have ended up taking decisions on this matter may not fully understand and appreciate the way education institutions actually operate. Nobody, I think, in at least no reasonable person, including people in this group, is going to argue that there should not be any examination. None of us would also argue that there should not be any assessment. All of us recognize the importance of examination and assessment. Where the discussion and debate ought to have gone is that under the exceptional circumstances of what we are facing today, what are the ways by which we can provide a meaningful assessment that is fair and reasonable and indeed inclusive, recognizing the extraordinary diversity and challenges of the people who are facing this crisis in different parts of the country. Now, be that as it may, I will say one thing, which is this is the moment for us as institutions to build capacity to develop alternative forms of assessment. At the end of the day, assessment is a continuous journey. It's a continuous process. More and more emphasis should be made on continuous assessment as opposed to an end-term examination. Second, it's equally important that we need to reimagine the way assessment or examination needs to be taken. For example, as a university this year, we did our entire entrance examination through what is known as artificial intelligence and remote proctored model. We did that and we completed the examinations, we admitted the students, and the whole thing was very smooth. And let me tell you, we are thinking of doing this even beyond COVID-19. The kind of systems that were put in place, but more importantly, the kind of challenges that one faces, including issues related to transparency in the physical context, can actually be avoided if we do it well with more innovation. As far as critical thinking is concerned, let me tell you, I have always lamented about the fact that in a country where STEM disciplines and medicine have historically taken greater precedence over the study of liberal arts, humanities, and social sciences in recent past, I am a strong defender of the liberal arts imagination of higher education. And I'm happy to see that the National Education Policy 2020 has given enormous emphasis on the need for promoting the study of liberal arts, humanities, and social sciences with a strong emphasis on critical thinking. It's also equally important that this element of critical thinking needs to be based upon the idea of developing a cultural sensitivity in the form of people understanding India's civilizational heritage as they become global citizens. Both of these things could go hand in hand. So in some ways, the heart of university education ought to be focusing on the need for promoting critical thinking, but also, I would add, responsible citizenry.
Wow, that's nice. Thank you. On this finance careers, could you throw some light? Which careers in finance, accounting, and money matters would be the focus post-COVID?
Yeah, well, I wanted to say that because it's a very important question, because as we can see, the entire world of finance is going through a transformation. Not only in India, but around the world. In fact, some of the developing countries are, of course, catching up. But the fact remains that this is going to be irreversible. COVID-19 has probably accelerated this opportunity. Digital finance, including including the existing paradigm of e-commerce, is going to change dramatically, in which the different forms of AI-enabled processes are going to be more and more common in the financial world. I also think that both, blockchain, but also bitcoins and the entire framework of that type of currencies are going to become more and more prominent as much as we speak. There is a regulatory resistance. India needs to provide a leadership role. These developments are going to happen, and our regulatory framework has to get prepared so that we can assume an important role. I also think that some of the efforts that the government has taken has actually laid the foundation for digitization. But one aspect of public policy reform that is absolutely urgent is that we need to improve internet connectivity across the country. The fact remains that at best 12% of Indian households are connected with uninterrupted form of internet, including electricity and any form of equipment. We simply cannot, whether it is e-commerce or education or healthcare, almost the entire continuum of our activities and initiatives cannot be promoted effectively unless and until we create a robust information technology infrastructure in both rural and urban. In fact, the challenges that we are facing today, even with regard to education, is further perpetuated and is unfortunately creating a digital divide in which only few people end up becoming more privileged when it comes to access to education. So, answering your question, the future of the world of finance and business and commerce is going to be dependent upon our ability to build a robust, IT infrastructure that is already, but will significantly shape the future of these study and career opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really throwing great light on that. There is a question, a very general question Abhijit Ray is asking, how much friendly will be in terms of adaptability from both students and educators? Let me try bringing a perspective to it. Teachers and students are the words that we have learned from childhood. And the traditional approach of teachers and students is going to be totally obsolete in times to come. Teacher will be replaced by mentors, students by learners. Teacher teaches in classroom, mentors teach within and beyond the classroom. Similarly, learners learn within and beyond the classroom. Teachers have a structured syllabus to focus on, and their goal is to finish the syllabus anyhow, take examination, give marks. Mentors start with a structured syllabus, but move to organic syllabus. Syllabus that goes, and therefore the learner also does the same. Syllabus that goes into the interest area of the learner deeper. So some basic points, basic syllabus would be covered, but there could be deeper insights on those if the model is mentor and learner. Teacher believes in his word, his learning, his knowledge as ultimate, and students also depend on that. But mentors are aggregators of knowledge. They aggregate knowledge, their proprietary knowledge in the sense of videos, PowerPoints, case studies, research that they have done, and aggregated knowledge, that's proprietary, and then aggregated knowledge from open sources. Massive online open courses are there. There are many other open sources. From all those, they gather those and bring it before the learner. And the learner is, these things are brought in before a session is done. So flipped classroom. Teachers believe in introducing the topic in the classroom. Mentors bring these topics, bring this content, learning resources much in advance before the learner, so that there is a flipped classroom system. The learner already knows the fundamentals, comes for doubt clearing, comes for debate and discussion, comes for the case studies. So this new model of learner and mentor has to come. Flexibility has to be on both sides. And we have to co-learn, because there are many things that are happening which we did not know earlier. And particularly technology-wise, a lot of things are happening. So we need to co-learn. There is no doubt about that. Abhijit Ray, that's my response to you. There is a question on robotics and machine learning is needed, whether it is needed in the world of astrophysics. And along with that, a question, someone from electronics honors, Ankan Sen, is asking, how do I go for post-graduation on AI? And someone who has got electronic honors. So Mr. Khara, Dr. Khara, would you take up post-graduation on AI and robotics and machine learning, whether it's needed for astrophysics? Dr. Khara or Dr.
I think in university there are MSc programs.
Right.
Okay, that is physics departments they are offering.
Right.
So there they can do it. Otherwise, after MSc, you have to do MTech, and then you can enter into engineering.
Right.
So a further study in engineering will be through MTech. Otherwise, it should be going through pure science through science department.
Great. Great. Thank you.
Trajectory.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Rajni Gupte, there's a question from Pooja Batra, which talks about research work as a prelude to teaching career. Now, many a time this has been debated. Do we go after post-graduation to the industry, work, and do research and then come back? Or we continue with academic research and become teachers? Who are more effective in the new normal? So research and academic career, Dr. Rajni Gupte, VC Symbiosis, please.
Yeah, I think here the question relates to what kind of domain you're going to get into. For instance, if it is an MBA program, then I would urge the candidate to actually get into work, understand the world of work, and then come back and do a PhD. Because then you would have, and then come back into teaching, so that you can bring the knowledge, practical knowledge that you've gleaned in the world of work back into the classroom. Since most of the MBA students today do come with a lot of work experience, someone who does not know that or who has never worked before may be at a disadvantage. But I guess in domains like other domains, if it's like pure physics or if it is mathematics, I guess then work experience may not be essential. Teaching and research could then be the way forward directly.
Great. So you find a great value in working in the field and then coming to do research and then into academics.
In an MBA program, yes, if you wish to teach in an MBA program.
Right, right, appreciate. I think that should be gradually true for many fields, even if someone is doing research in sciences or engineering, you know, there could be fundamental research as well in sciences, but for engineering, practice is very important, if I'm not wrong.
That's right.
Before coming back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That's Perumal Swami Rangaram is Ramanathan is appreciating critical thinking aspects that has been mentioned by Dr. Gupte and Dr. Rajkumar earlier, and collaborative and team-based evaluation that has also been appreciated a lot. Aparna Basu is thanking all of us for really giving insights. Dhaka University, wow. Dr. Shitesh Bachar from Dhaka University is participating and very happy at the things that we are discussing. Sudeep Deb is asking engineering course best for the future. I really don't know how to answer or even think of these things. It depends on individual choice, right, Dr. Singh? How do you look at engineering course best for the future? Which one? How do you really look at that?
Well, thank you, Professor Ujjwal. I think there's nothing best for the future. It all depends, as you very rightly said, where your passion lies and where your interest is. I mean, many times while we counsel students and everybody is, thinking of doing computer science as of now. And I know the best person who has done computer science is a person from metallurgy. He did his metallurgy, gone to computers, and then became the engineer in bioinformatics.
Right.
So it is not that what career you choose, what your passion says is more important. And in my opinion, all field of engineering, all core branches, allied branches, they all are good branches. And I always say one thing for the career counseling point of view for all the children attending this webinar. If your passion is high and you are going to join a particular field, forget about what we are discussing today in this career platform. If your passion is with the career you are going to choose, and if you are in the top 10% of the students of your class, nobody can stop your growth. That I always say, and that passion will make its own way. I mean, you can go ahead in your life, take any, but that should be close to your heart.
Very nice. Very well said, sir. Dr. Singh, one more thing. This delivery of education traditionally was more face-to-face. You met the students. I've gone to a campus, very beautiful on a small hillock and all that, beautiful, well laid out campus. And the energy that you have when you meet students and all, they meet the faculty members, they do practical. And now we are we are in a digital phase. Maybe we'll move to blended phase. So Sudha Babulnath is asking, can we have the delivery at par with the traditional methods, or will it be better or worse?
Ujjwal, I say very frankly, my personal experience, I was having no experience of teaching digitally. And when the pandemic started in March, we started classes online. And today I say with proud and with my passion that we are almost 90% equal to classroom delivery. But for most of the subjects, I'm not saying all of the subjects, for most of the subjects, the delivery on the digital mode where we have connectivity. I'm not talking about digital divide. The Vice-Chancellor sitting in this particular platform today, we all have students who have, most of them have good connectivity and where we can, we could deliver. But then the digital divide and other things will come in between. But if the country, as Professor Rajkumar has said, and you also said, that if we invest fully for the digitalization of each and every primary school of this country, each and every middle school of this country, and each and every university and college of this country, and we have a separate devices where we are going to deliver only educational content, and it is being streamed in such a manner so that educational content is being given in those platforms, I would say that this country in the national education policy will be having better people to teach in the digital platform than in the classroom setting. Because the quality of teachers, teachers normally don't talk about it. The quality of teachers at the many level is so bad. In fact, it is better if we don't have such teachers than to have a classroom only and students learn on their own from Google. So that kind of situation has arisen. And one particular platform, we can teach 1,000 students. A good teacher can cater to 1,000 students at a time. And through digital platform, through learning, we train ourselves to become a better, communicator on the digital platform. I think there will be a remarkable change in the scenario or education scenario. I'm talking about the villages, I'm talking about the towns, I'm talking about all those. But then digital divide has to be gradually removed from this particular. This is one. And frankly speaking, Ujjwal, the time which Dr. Gupte has said, and I'm also, we are not going to have the same question papers what we used to have before COVID. During this COVID time, we have learned the open source examination system where the student have been given do whatever from anywhere. Faith is one part of it, and we have set up question paper in such a manner only 20-30% he could gain from books and other sources, and 80% 70% he has to use his thinking and logic and answer that. And that is going to be the part of my normal system after the COVID time. So this is examination on one hand, delivery on one hand, digital platform as a tool to blend it together. I think it is going to be a very challenging but most beautiful time and most productive time. Post-COVID time is going to be for the education sector.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Rajkumar, there are certain questions that many laboratory-based learning has got hit in COVID times. How do we handle that? Going ahead, digital to blended, how do you? Kudrat-e-Khuda Babu is asking this.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Dr. Chaudhary. That's one of the most challenging questions, because while many of us believe that online education can supplement and indeed provide enormous, let's say, transition and continuity to education in these difficult times, I'm also conscious of the fact that those, aspects of learning which requires physical presence, including laboratory-based, learning, be it in the field of medicine or several STEM areas, cannot be entirely substituted through online. But I will say one thing. A few years ago, I was at an international conference in San Francisco, and Google had presented a very advanced form of virtual reality platforms that they had created. And both Facebook and Google were there. And I was amazed to see what they had done when it comes to bringing virtual reality experiences into the study of certain STEM disciplines, including what can be possible for us to actually learn in that ecosystem. I think technology must have evolved a lot since then. I do want to say one thing, that none of us should feel that the future of brick and mortar universities is under threat. I am a very strong believer in the idea of physical university spaces. Even when a decade ago, a reputed magazine like The Economist had predicted that the MOOCs, the massive open online courses, will fundamentally challenge the idea of physical spaces in higher education, I stuck out and said it is not going to be the case, and that's exactly what happened. There were new aspects of brick and mortar campuses evolving. So to answer your question, I think particularly for those disciplines which has a stronger dependence on physical learning, including laboratory spaces, human interaction in the form of, let's say, experiential learning in a clinical setting, in medicine and other areas, we need to have a dual model. One, the first model is whatever we can try to do in terms of innovation in curriculum and virtual learning opportunities, including online education, to the extent we can during this crisis should be done, and we should try to finish as much of that during this time. The second aspect of it is going to be what we will do when the pandemic gets over. I am very confident that whether it may be 6 months or 12 months, we will see a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's when some of those aspects where physical learning is essential can be continued.
Thank you, Dr. Rajkumar, for your insights onto global education, legal education, healthcare education, and the points that you said just now about practical and hands-on learning. I believe we shall carry forward this learning as we go ahead. I request everyone, all the Vice Chancellors here, and I find Dr. Sandeep Sancheti has just now joined. Welcome, sir, from SRM University, Chennai. He has joined. Thank you, sir. We'll be meeting in the second panel, and as other Vice Chancellors also join. We are almost closing the first panel. We are going ahead with that. But I appreciate Dr. Rajkumar for your joining and setting a lot of guidelines and insights for all others, the youngsters, and even teaching community, education, administration, and people alike. And we hope to meet again on another platform. I will request every Vice Chancellor, as I was telling, please do write 1,000 or 1,200 words write-up on the perspectives that you are putting forth. Maybe you can take up one of the things, like for example, how to build a global university by Dr. Rajkumar, or legal education of the global standards. So maybe like that, Dr. Shivram Khara on engineering and technology education, as you have been telling very rightly. So if you could take such themes and write 1,000 or 1,200 words write-up, I believe ABP Education would love to publish it and put it before the youngsters. They have done more than 40 or 45 views like that. It would be great to have your views as well. A question for Dr. Rajani Gupte as we move ahead. There is a question on media, but I'll take that later. There was a question by the lady, Tapasi Bhattacharya. Dr. Gupte, how can we get the opportunity to learn and work in the field of waste management, pollution control, and climate change? You have been mentioning this very strongly and very rightly so in the post-COVID era. So could you talk a bit more on the waste management, pollution control, and climate change areas? Dr. Gupte.
Yeah, there are many programs now available in the domain of waste management, energy management. And my own university, Symbiosis, offers an MBA in energy and environment. So domains like waste management would be a fallout out of this, and is an area that we work in. And therefore, many other universities do offer these kind of programs now. And those should be something that the students could be interested in, can check out and find out about such programs.
And it's such a lovely university, ma'am, because I've been a part of it, on a hillock, yes, with more than 300 acres from downhill, bottom, foothill to up there. What a beautiful campus, what an environment to study, research, and a friendly atmosphere. And thanks for your leadership.
We spend a lot of effort on managing the environment, and making sure that we've been very many practices on waste management are adopted by the university as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, I would repeat my request to you to maybe write 1,000, 1,200 words write-up, the way you have shared your ideas. And I will, ABP by its practice would be taking this across to many, many audiences, the entire program. The last Vice Chancellors Roundtable that we had of Bengal Vice Chancellors has crossed 300,000 views, 3 lakhs views. I hope that this one, which is of National Vice Chancellors, would also be similar or more. So it would be great to have your ideas, particularly on these areas that you have spoken about, highlighted in the form of an article that can be shared at length. Thank you, ma'am. And we will move to the next panel. But before
thank you very much, Dr. Chaudhary.
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary.
You wonderfully moderated the session, giving
Thank
equal
you.
opportunity to all of us to express our views. Thank you.
Thank you. And you covered a lot of student
my
questions.
focus was on the strengths of each one of you.
You are a wonderful host.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Other Vice Chancellors don't leave, because I'll be asking one closing question to everyone before you leave. So, no, Dr. Rajani Gupta may leave and Dr. Rajkumar may leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a question. There is an observation from Ms. Florence Handik Rabha from Assam, who feels that practical work experience is must, particularly in the field of media and communication, to become a faculty member. I truly, truly agree to that. Someone cannot be. I mean, there is my colleague, my good friend, Dr. Ritu Sood is there with Shivramji in his department as the dean. There's Sanjeev Sood. There is Dr. Amit Chawla. They have all worked in the industry. My colleagues, Dr. Sunayan Bhattacharya, had worked in the industry. I was in Times of India and Reuters. My another colleague, Subhrajit, has been with Accenture PR. And similar is the case with you, Madam Florence Handik Rabha, who has worked in television channels. So unless you really work in real life situations of advertising, public relations, journalism, or film and television production, radio production, there cannot be at all really meaningful teaching in the classroom. Only theory teaching would not take them a long way. And Dr. Devashish Bejbarua, what are the new normal prospects of media people? Totally, we have to move to digital driven media. It's mobile journalism and web-based journalism ahead. Print's time is limited. To an extent, it will be there because it's just now expanding into certain hinterland areas of India, but the future is web-led. The stories will be broken on the Twitter and the web first, on YouTube first, and then taken into details by television, which is increasingly becoming studio-centric. and then finally by the print with further analysis. Similarly, ad campaigns, PR campaigns will be first launched on the social media and then taken to other media. So it will be convergence ahead also. It was television-led convergence in the last 20 years. It was print-led convergence in the last century, and it will be gradually web-led convergence going ahead, whether it's web entertainment, web branding, or web-based journalism. That's on media from my end, because that's the area that I'm into. So I thought I'll take a moment for that. Sir, Dr. Khara, you are an engineer, and there have been a large number of youngsters from BTech background participating here. For example, this lady, Srima Nandi, is telling that a large number of students are rushing for BTech degree in computer science generally. But is there a job opportunity in general computer science and engineering that much? Or they need to specialize? Or is this mindset right? Or other areas of engineering need to be looked at as well? So over to you, Dr.
No, currently this engineering, basically the admission rush is taking place in computer science engineering. And other engineering programs, no, civil, mechanical, electrical, electronics, it is not taking up, admission is not there much. But in computer science also, since last 4 years, we have seen that it started with computer science and then specializations in IoT, and basically IBM started certain specializations in cloud computing and big data. And of course, it was there in MBA program also. But now the specializations widened up, almost 15 to 20 specializations in computer science. And it is right, actually, pure computer science, the core computer science and engineering, basically losing the ground. Okay, either students will have over and above certain baskets, some electives or some majors in some specialized courses, either it's a big data or security, mobile computing, IoT, whatever, or a university where within the curriculum itself they are making specialized program. But mostly university are going that it is the same program, but it will have different elective baskets, so that university gets certain advantage, showing that it is single program running, but students will have options. So basically, students can have options from different baskets, one-on-one courses, or it can have a very specialized manner, it doesn't matter. But it is up to the students, you know, in his interest or her interest, they have to actually explore in certain field, because in computer science it has become so wide. So your mobile computing, your IoT, your big data and cloud computing, and then machine learning and other things, AI, rightfully some specialization choice is required, because job domain is very vast and very division wise it is sectioned. That's why it is very important that some specializations to be taken mandatorily. Otherwise, students can have a one-on-one course in different specializations, and on his or her interest, he can explore further, but that doesn't matter. But yes, computer science is rust, but other programs are losing the grounds. And of course, now with the AI and ML, I have told that it is becoming like language. Now, based on these, every solutions will be provided to in all the discipline. All will be AI-based solutions or big data-driven control and monitoring or decision-making prediction. That's why it is very important. Computer science is very important.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree to that computers and IT is not just one industry, it is basis of many or all industries, in fact. Even as a teachers also, we understand that, sir. So computers or learning computers is compulsory, but there are other areas of engineering also have a future. Smart city, for example, in civil engineering, or let's say IoT in electronics engineering, or let's say design engineering in mechanical engineering, or for that matter, sustainable energy in electrical engineering are equally important, futuristic, productive careers ahead. These are productive areas ahead. So to all the viewers, all the listeners, I would request to focus also on those areas. If you have your heart in computer science and IT, please go ahead. But to think that other engineering industries have gone kaput is not the case at all. They are changing their nature. Yes, AI and ML would be fundamental in any form of engineering going ahead, as rightly said by Dr. Khara. Dr. Khara, thank you for your active participation for 2 hours now. And we look forward to your written contribution also, some article also in ABP Education as we go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Yes.
Professor
Bye-bye.
S.P. Singh. Thank
Bye
you very
bye.
much.
Bye bye. I turn my attention to Dr. Edmund Maher, please. There's a question from Mridula Singh Baghel that some months ago, we believed in learning by doing and involving the child in many things. But suddenly the scenario seems to be changing. It's learning only largely through the digital means. Do you think the children will cope up? And to cope up, what should they do? The mental health and the learning abilities of youngsters, what should they do? Over to Dr. Edmund Maher, Vice-Chancellor, Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University, Pune.
It's an excellent question. What we've found is that lecture is quite a strong method and has a strong learning gain when it's live and face-to-face, because there are all sorts of interactions that go on, even in a lecture situation. But when it comes to online, lecture has an extremely low learning gain. So actually what works best is interactive. And so the sort of stuff that works best online is a short segment from the teacher, some breakout groups, some interaction between students, group projects, back to a short lecture, feedback, quiz, and working lessons and lectures in these short segments. And so I think your observation is absolutely spot on. And why I said earlier, what we're really trying to do these days is not say that online learning is superior. It's not. The learning gain is not superior. But what we are trying to do is emulate really good, interactive, caring, teacher-student, mentor-student situation. And actually we can build in experiential learning through remote learning modes, because the technology is such these days that we can work together in experimental groups, we can work together in project teams, and even on our global learning side, now these teams can be global. So we can put students in contact with one another in global teams, they can meet real needs. So I think there are some real possibilities, but I think the way forward for education face-to-face and online is actually interactive and mostly applied.
Great, thank you. That gives a perspective to this question. And Dr. Maher, even if you are in Belgium, I would look forward to reading your contribution on the ABP Education. The portal would reach out to you for bringing forth one of these ideas. You have put in many ideas actually today, but
Sure.
One of the key points, if you can take up and develop it into 1,000 to 1,200 words contribution, so that the readers also read other than just watch and listen to you, which they have done so far and will be doing, because the video will be promoted actively across all social media. Thank
there's
you.
a lot of growth there's a lot of growth or room for growth in the area of industry university link and research industry link. I think that's fundamental.
That is the topic you can write on, Matt,
Yeah.
sir.
Yep.
That is the topic you can write on.
Yes. And one last point before I go, I'm sorry, but
please ask. Please
the advertisement, Incredible India, I've only been a short time in India, but in India, my experience so far, that things are organized and done so quickly, and I'm consistently looking at things that succeed. And I think it's just one miracle after another. So when it comes to global learning, it's not so much about linking to, it's about everybody learning from one another. And I just feel absolutely grateful to be able to be involved. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And we are really happy that you are spending some time in India and contributing to the higher education scenario in the country. And this industry institute interface that you spoke about could be the theme on which we'll welcome a contribution in the media as well.
Happily.
Thank you, Dr. Maher.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we will move to the last speaker of the, who was the first speaker actually? Last speaker just now to close this session. So that's Dr. Singh, a smiling gentleman. 2 hours ago, he was with the same smile and closing it also at the same smile. I do not want to ask a question from just the list of the questions which have come. There are many questions and we'll take up with the other Vice Chancellors. So please keep asking questions. Don't worry. The program is still two more hours to go, and keep asking questions. There will be a new set of Vice Chancellors, very senior, very honorable, who would be joining. A couple of them have already joined, and we'll take the questions continuously. So do not leave. This is something, an extraordinary moment in our lives as an educationist, as a learner. We do not get to see 14 Vice Chancellors at the same time in the same platform over 4 hours. And these 240 minutes are highly precious. This will be there. The video will be there on the ABP YouTube and the ABP Education Facebook as well. And you can continue actually using that, watching that, and taking suggestions and guidance from that even later on. So Dr. Singh, the question that I have from my heart, I was born in Bengal, brought up in Arunachal Pradesh. A part of my life was in Assam as well, before I moved back to Bengal for higher education, and then went out of Bengal, out of India as well for some time. You have taken up a responsibility going from Lucknow, Delhi to Northeast to develop the educational scenario there. What's your experience of the last few years? What future careers and future possibilities you find among the youth of the 7 sisters and 1 brother of the Northeast? Over to you, and that will be the concluding question to you.
Thank you so much. This is the best question so far been asked. I would say that because I started my journey in Northeast in 2009. And in between, I was with MIT for 3.5 years and back again. And I would say that this part of the country is the most beautiful part as far as the natural scenario is concerned, about the people of this place, because you also, Joel, lived here. And all the things, all natural resources, emotional, I would say they are one of the best people with respect to culture, with respect to humanity, with respect to language. They are very, very proficient in their own language, as well as English is spoken so very well out here. So this place has all the potential to grow. But the growth model of this place depends upon the cultural model of this place, which cultural model of this place says that grow slow, grow confidently, and grow keeping environment intact around you. At the same time, other model of development says exploit environment to the best possible way, grow spontaneously, very fast, forget about rest of the things around. I think the stage, what we have done in this place from last 10, 11 years, I would say that we have thought of, and I think Government of India also thought of, that to develop this area of the country as a model of the growth or growth model which sustains the environment, which sustains all the natural resources, as well as develop systematically. And that probably will the model for the whole country, and maybe in due course of for the whole world. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but what I personally believe, that the growth in this area has come at that point of time when we have learned the problems we have faced due to exponential growth and growth with respect to exploiting our environment to the extent which we should have not done. But this area now is having all those resources. So if we will grow this as a growth model for the whole world, I think this is one part. Culturally, we all are growing very fast, but we are growing in such a manner so that neither we deviate from the intact culture of this area, as well as we learn the best of the West, the best of the East, and we should inculcate here. And I think this is Nagaland, Meghalaya, and Mizoram. They have all those best things of the West which we can think of, as well as the worst thing of the West also they have. By the same time, we learn from our experience. And Royal Global University, I say, Joel, very frankly, we are blessed that we have a student for almost, other than Sikkim, all 7 states, our students are studying with us. And we are very fortunate to have an environment or maybe culture which is helping the whole Northeast region to grow. The children coming here, working 10 hours a day, learning, work happily, and they are happy in the campus. Right. They are actually inventing themselves in due course of time. Right. They never got such an exposure earlier in Northeast region. They were going all the way to Bangalore, to Chennai, to Mumbai, to Delhi. But now they are sticking back to Northeast India, sticking back to Guwahati and coming to Royal Global University. And we are giving them equally or better education than any other part of the country.
Thank you.
And we are growing this institution very well, and the area also. in the right manner.
Thank
Ujjwal,
you.
so this,
And the seven sisters and one brother of Northeast do require a world-class university there, and practices which are of national standard. It's important that the people do not necessarily spend 2-3 times the cost going elsewhere. I also appreciate that you have a lot of focus on technology and management both, including even agriculture and agricultural technology, botany and technology combination, and many other things. Thank you very much, Dr. Singh. Yes, you want to say? Yeah.
I just want to add on one thing, because the Northeast is also very rich with respect to sports culture. People are very fit, very agile.
Right.
And
right.
therefore, in this university, and I've written a paper also to AIU, that sports culture in the university. During this pandemic time, we are somehow missing, but 25th, 26th, and 27th of March, we were organizing All India Inter-University Baseball Championship. I myself am a baseball player, and I have blended the sports with the education out here, and it is compulsory for each and every child to join
Great.
one sport. So
Great.
that is something which is unique.
I appreciate, totally appreciable. Sir, if you could make a write-up on education in the Northeast and the future possibilities on that, I think it would be a good topic for ABP Education to carry as your educational views. It's significant, sir, other than your views, your look, there should be write-ups also, the words as well that are consumed or taken by the audiences. Thank you. With that, we bring the first session. Yes, Florence is writing, we are proud to be a part of the university, and thanks to our Honorable Vice-Chancellor. So with this, we bring the first session completely to an end, and I hand over to ABP for formally beginning the second session. And thank you, Dr. Singh.
Thank you so much, and thank you all the participants and my colleagues there. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So we move to the second panel of the National Vice-Chancellors Roundtable. In the first panel, we had 5 Vice-Chancellors, 1 joining from abroad and 4 from various parts of India. And it has been a fabulous experience looking at so many. And for those who are joining now, let me honestly tell, I'm so overwhelmed. There are more than 69 questions in the question answer part. And there are more than 100 questions in the chat box. And this 169, out of whom maybe we have taken up already 70-75 of them. So whatever we could not would be now also taken up for you. And there will be new questions as we go ahead. And the program is live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and also in and there are 250 participants even now. I mean, that's fabulous. At one point it crossed 300 as well. Again, as we go, it will grow more. And let me also inform the Vice Chancellors who have just now joined. There was one more round we had earlier, which was a Bengal Vice Chancellors Roundtable. And that was, I think, around 1.5 months earlier. And that has crossed 3 lakhs views in the Facebook. And that's fabulous. 3 lakhs youngsters and teachers, viewing it is great. And we also, all the Vice Chancellors have contributed through articles also in this whole discourse. There's a huge transformation happening in the world of education. Nothing that we have seen in our lifetime. All our Vice Chancellors are all surely below 70 years because that's the maximum age to become a Vice Chancellor. All of us who are below 70 years have never seen such a huge possibility of transformation in education that we are just now facing. Either we recognize or not recognize fully is an individual thing, but we are up for a great change. And as we have already seen in the last panel also, the changes are affecting each and every career choice. So what would be the futuristic careers? What would be the way to achieve those futuristic careers? How should we be training our youngsters, educating our youngsters for those futuristic careers? So focusing on futuristic careers, let me first invite the first Vice Chancellor of the second panel, Dr. Sandeep Sancheti. Dr. Sandeep Sancheti, I had the pleasure of listening to him a couple of times in various programs. I was amazed. As a Vice Chancellor, he was at that time associated with another university. And he was, as a Vice Chancellor, was saying, sometime from now in future, and that might be around 2 years ago, he was saying, sometime in future, the significance of degree and the degree centricity in university education will actually go away or will be reduced. The significance will be far reduced. It looked like, almost impossible 24, 30 months ago. We are facing a situation like this now. Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and a couple of others have already announced they will not be recruiting people on the basis of qualification, but only on the basis of skills. And they're very clear. They would not even have a column for whether the person is BTech or not. This is significant. Significant to understand that we are entering into a new era of education where the values for which we are valued would be very different than just a piece of paper. So I welcome Dr. Sandeep Sancheti, who is known as an institution builder. Several institutions he has built up with a PhD from Queen's University in Belfast, UK, and a BTech from Regional Engineering College, Warangal, an MSc from Delhi College of Engineering, now DTU. I welcome him to speak first in this panel and say, what careers? How do we prepare our youngsters for them? What's your vision, sir, from SRM, Chennai, Dr. Sandeep Sancheti?
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary. Welcome to my co-panelists also, distinguished members who are present here, and all the attendees. First of all, thanks for inviting us, and it's a great deal to learn. I was partly listening to the previous panel where other distinguished set of Vice Chancellors were there. Some points possibly will have common between them and us because of the very nature of the topic, and maybe sometimes similarity of the views. However, we'll still speak our mind and share our thoughts. It's very right when Chaudhary Sahab Ujjwalji said that 2 years back, 2.5 years back, I was making that point. I still remember that. I kind of shook a lot of heads there in terms of what I was trying to say.
I came up in the tea time and told you that's quite a revolutionary comment for you.
Yeah, but that was the nature of the conference was that, and I was a keynote speaker, and therefore I needed to do justice to what I was saying. And this was about disruption, and 2.5 years later, the disruption has become much more. It's not subsided. Disruption has become more aggressive, has become more amplified. And as a result, you are seeing that wholesale changes are happening, whether it is the way we are educating, whether it is the way companies are recruiting, whether it is the way you need to acquire the skills and deliver what you are expected to deliver. So number one, I mean, there are many things, my dear friends, which one can say there is no limit to it. We have been discussing these on many forums, including the highest forum of Member of Parliaments, that what changes countries should kind of prepare for. People are trying to envisage what are the likelihood of new requirements, but no one is able to predict. It's going to be very difficult, but you can learn a little bit from history. You can anticipate something from the future based on the technologies which are there, and therefore you can anticipate and plan. But the biggest thing you require is ready to change, ready to accept the change, ready to mold yourself, ready to go in different direction, close one chapter or one path and be on the another path if so required. I think that sort of a flexibility is required. And therefore, I would say all these features, what we call multitasking, multiplexing, or all those kind of things are required in anyone who wants to be a successful person in the career. The second thing is in this career, obviously you have, when you are charting your journey for life, you will probably make a plan that I want to be so and so, and therefore in that so and so, you may have a plan A, but then today you probably need not only plan B, you need plan C also, because many things can suddenly come to a disruptive end, and therefore the plan B path may be choked, and therefore that would be difficult. And therefore education is just the booting point or a starting point of it. If I say in general, what are the attributes you require? I'll possibly list out 6, 7 attributes which I will say. Attributes means competencies. I'm saying not necessarily attributes here. Number 1, you require general competency. Number 2, you require personal competency in the sense that you can adapt and this and that. All those are personal competencies. Number 3, you require entrepreneurial competency. It's nothing to do with starting a company or a business or making profit out of something. No. Entrepreneurial nature is something that you hit the dark spots, you try to solve them, you take a plunge in something new, you take the risk, and you take the pain as well as the gain out of that. I think that is entrepreneurial competency for me. You also need to have the wellness competency, not only for you, but for your team, that how do you take care, how the unit is working together, how you help each other. I think that is a wellness. Wellness is not only physical, mental also is there. Then you need social competency, how to behave, present, predict, or whatever, do certain things which society might need eventually, or what is bugging them. I think that would be there. And then in the end, I would say today you require the core area competency. Core area competency means I may be an engineer and I'll need to do something regarding engineering. And therefore, I need to have the core area competency. All these are possibly the 6 competencies I will say, which is required. But a person would be successful with these competencies and will have all these things if you work on this fundamental. I like it. It was part of the theme, an institution which I headed and which we made during when I was heading that institution, that all our students should follow one path. And typically that path is, you should be first of all good human beings. Number 2, you should be responsible citizens. And number 3, you should be competent professionals. Okay, and that was the order which we decided, that the good human being is to be first. And this was, by the way, 15 years back. Today, everyone talks about that, probably knows about that also, may not be the youngsters, but most of the senior people know. But we made it 15 years back as a theme for ourselves, that this is what our students should depict. And these competencies which I've told you are probably falling in that category only. As you can see, the core area competency is possibly the last which I have said, because it is changing all the time in your life, because it is changing, because knowledge is, it is said that is doubling every 12 hours these days. Who has measured that speed? I don't know, but it's a quote and it's available. And the meaning thereby is changing very, very fast. And therefore, the core area competency, even if I'm the most competent today, possibly tomorrow or day after, or maybe a year after, it will change and I'll have to rejig myself. So looking at that, if I come to the some skills which 2020 required, I don't have the futuristic list. I won't be, it won't be easy for me to predict what will be required in 2025, but there was something which was done for 2020. And this was almost half the items were not available in 2015. And if I read the list of the skills which you'll require for your survival or for your competency and well-being in the areas in which you want to excel, I think the complex problem solving is very, very important. Gone are the days that I know the information, I have the data. No, that is not going to survive. Even you can say knowledge is not going to be, though we call it as a knowledge arena or a knowledge domain, but it will not help you. What you really need is wisdom. And there are people who are talking about much more dimensions before even wisdom, that how it can be seen and how it can be reflected in someone's functioning. And therefore, there are top 10 skills which are required, let's say in this year, 2020, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity. These are all non-standard things, not to read something and reproduce something, mug something and get marks. Nothing will come out of in these 3 things: complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. Then, of course, comes some of the common items like people's management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence becoming very important, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation skills, and cognitive flexibility. These are some of the items which are required. By the way, half of them were not present in the list which was there in 2015. And I would want that some of us should work, or some agencies should work towards making the new list, which will be required in 2025, 5 years down the line. Once again, you'll find half these items will completely go missing. I would like to say many things which I can say, but I would say that today, if you have to be in the profession and do very well in the profession, I think there are certain requirements. Everything somehow is getting linked to digital domain. Everything is probably requiring a software or a computer interface kind of a thing, because it can be scaled up very easily, because it can be transferred very easily, because it can be recorded and reported easily, because we need transparency, because we need speed. All these things are the nature of requirements. And if I have to say something, let us say in terms of 8 core areas for which a survey was done somewhere in 2018 and published in 2018. And these core areas of functioning of human work, I would say, are the basic infrastructure. The second area is consumer. The third area is energy sector. The fourth area is financial services. The fifth area is healthcare. The sixth area is information communication technologies. The seventh area is mobility. And the last 8th area is professional services. These eight areas, someone had surveyed, a LinkedIn report is available with me, which probably shared what are the changes happening in these 8 core areas and what are the new requirements in these 8 core areas. You'll be surprised to know that out of 8 core areas, 6 of them require the computing or IT or software skills almost at the top. In fact, out of 6, 5 require, the first skill requirement is software engineer or computer engineering requirement. One of them requires the same thing at 2nd or 3rd rank. And out of 8, 6 of them heavily depend upon this particular kind of a skill requirement for future. So you probably understand that what is going to be the nature of domains which are going to be there. And if I say that what is going to be the nature of education, let's say if I say engineering, because I belong to engineering, I can only give you best examples from the engineering. Engineering would be what will be called as interdisciplinary engineering. Engineering possibly can be branchless engineering. Engineering can also go into the domains of what we call the food engineering, or the food technology, or the fire technology, or the fashion technology, and all these core areas, what we call basically mechanical, civil, etc. will remain, but they will not be a force, because ultimately construction technology has come, which is probably subsiding civil in a certain way. There will be things which are related to the environmental things which will become a full-fledged thing. Right now, it's a part of civil engineering or maybe some other domains. And therefore, there are many changes which we are going to see. Interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity will be sitting at the highest level. And in functioning, if you don't embed the social angles in engineering, if you don't embed that, I think there will be lots of challenges. I will conclude my this part of address, Ujjwal ji, by sharing some very key interesting titles of the jobs which might come in the future. I don't necessarily agree with them, but these are the public reports which are there, which says that these are the kind of jobs which will come up, and one has to believe that these may be there. One would be a trash engineer, one who can deal with garbage and the stuff which we are discarding.
Waste manager, engineer.
I'm talking of engineering, so I'm saying manager is a different thing.
Right,
Will put left to right and top to bottom, and will probably bring cost efficiency. But an engineer will have to bring the technology also, that how to deal with that, how it is becoming less effective or maybe less destructive and more productive. I think, and that is why the term trash engineer is there. The other one would be alternate energy consultant. Fine, that probably one would know, but right now we are not using. Who knows? the walls of the homes or the rooftops will all be from the bricks of the solar tiles or the solar cell tiles, and therefore every bit of it can be energy and it can become green. So alternative energy consultants, designers, architects, all those will become very, very important. I'm not an expert, but all these features of renewable energy, I have seen my friends both in Chennai, where I am right now, and in Karnataka, in Bangalore, who have run their houses for last 10 years without external energy. Basically speaking, means in terms of net flow of energy. Yes, to begin with, something they might use, or for something important they might use, but there is a net flow of energy from their side to the grid, and they don't use it, they produce it. And there, of course, there are natural lightings and all that. Then there will be an importance of people like tsunami or earthquake forecasters. And I think Google is working on that. You probably heard recently Sundar Pichai talking about studying certain things and predicting such things. Earthquake forecaster will be a good job. Medical mentor would be a good job. Organ and body part creator will be a good thing to have when you are using the 3D printing, that how to create that. That will be a skill which is not purely medical. That is not a skill which is purely medical also. Neither engineering nor medical. It will be a brand new skill which would require. There is a skill set to be memory surgeon. There is a skill which or a domain which will be personal productivity person. There will be a thing which will be personal Internet of Things security repair person, which will be requirement. Of course, there will be flight, because a lot of things are going to go into the domain of flight and UAVs and other things, space things. So flight instructors and flight things will happen. And then commercial space pilots would be another new domain. So there are many, many such interesting domains, which obviously hundreds must be there. And therefore, people have to think with an open mind. I think winners would be those who can create their own specialization and brand rather than remain on the routine. And therefore, we in education are creating such avenues that people can create their own path, that which direction they would like to go, which combination they will make, and which way they will go further. And for that, there is a scheme called ABC, which the new education policy is announced. Partly I'm connected with that. And therefore, if you have time later, I'll probably speak about that, how will that facilitate these kind of requirements in future for the budding, you can say, professionals. So with this, I'll close right now, Chaudhary sir. Thank you.
You actually have covered a lot of things, large number of things, starting from disruption amplified, disruption amplification, going on to multiple careers life, one life, multiple careers, multitasking, then going into general competency, personal competency, entrepreneurial competency, and technological and social competency. Wow. 8 core areas. I'm completely flown with that, because 8 core areas are the areas where we have to focus educationally, economically, and societally, even policy-wise, government policy-wise. And I really appreciate this unique thing you said, walls of home with solar energy. So the bricks that can capture solar energy. Wow. The brick concept will change, obviously. It will be solar panels, maybe in a way. And the entire home itself is a producer of solar energy. And I'm told 40% of consumer energy in Poland is through solar means and produced by the people themselves, as you have given examples even from your friends. And I also know that in Israel, for example, 92% of the vehicles do not run on fossil fuel because of the Arab-Israel conflict and the non-availability of oil and the geopolitics of oil there. They started developing and researching alternative energy sources to run their vehicles, whether it's battery or electric or whatever. The 92% of the vehicles do not run on fossil fuel. Very good, sir. Thank you for those introductions. Well, we'll come to ABC a little later. But I would, before I go to the next speaker, I want you to talk for a moment, just 1 minute on inter, trans, and multidisciplinarity, how they're different. Inter, trans, and multidisciplinarity.
I didn't expect that question, Chaudhary Saab, from you to me. Let me tell you, there's nothing which can describe them very, very differently. I've myself been trying to search this answer for quite some time. And on many forums, maybe day before yesterday also, I must have said to someone that you better explain it to me. Basically, you can say Inter is also going from one to another. The domain or the extent can change, engineering to non-engineering, medical to engineering, or through social science or to commerce or business. Probably Inter shows any relationship with anyone is what I would try to say. But when it comes to transdisciplinarity or multidisciplinarity, multi is within the system is what I will try to limit, that I am an engineer, but within the engineering, I can do multiple things. For example, as an electronics engineer, I know that all I claim, let's say this mobile is an electronic device. I took a lot of pride when it came 20 years, 25 years back. But today I know it is more of materials, more of fabrication, more of battery, more of chemicals and displays and various other things which are there. Electronics wise, it's only one chip. And therefore I need to be multidisciplinary to design this. Otherwise I cannot design this and take this. And like this, so the clear definitions don't exist.
Well said, sir. I'll give an example, sir. This Three Idiots cinema, everyone has seen. I'm sure all the people who are watching and us have seen. In Three Idiots, the guy, this character Madhavan, and he's very popular in south of India, actually all of India, but south of India more popular. Madhavan was made to be an engineer, to study engineering by parents, but his heart was in photography. So if Madhavan is an engineer and does a minor in photography, in my opinion, that's interdisciplinary. But if, for example, a lawyer who is studying LLB is also doing a minor in computer science and becomes a cyber lawyer, he uses both law and IT together in the same job. That's multidisciplinarity or transdisciplinarity. But inter could be two together, may not be interconnected. But trans and multi are more interconnected, as you have also said. They are much closer. They are integrated in the profession. Thank you, sir.
Incidentally, Madhavan's case, which you reflected, would be covered in ABC when I cover that.
Yes, thank you. We'll come to that. We'll wait for that. I have now the pleasure of calling another Rishi Muni. By the way, Rishi Muni is gender neutral. Rishi Muni need not be males only. And I have a policy. I will never participate in a panel, either as a panelist or a moderator, unless there is a lady speaker as well. Not just for representation of gender, but also for perspectives. Because only male panel, many a time, may miss out on certain perspectives. We have Professor Sushma Yadav. Professor Sushma Yadav is the Vice-Chancellor of Bhagat Phul Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya. Very interestingly, she is a Delhi University topper. And you know in Delhi University how many colleges are affiliated to that. To be a topper in Delhi University, that's really, really tough. And she has 12 books to her credit. Without getting into far more details, Professor Sushma Yadav, your focus on the futuristic careers post-COVID, more particularly in the case of women, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Chakrabarti. I think Professor Chaudhary. Professor Chaudhary,
yes.
Thank you very much. I begin with complimenting you and ABP Education for this wonderful roundtable. This is required because most of our youngsters at this time are worried, and are worried because what will happen to them? What's going to be their future? What are the careers in store? What is future in store? And more so for women, of course, though there are new avenues for them. And the world is in fact moving certainly and uncertainly both ways. We never knew COVID few months back, and now it's a new normal. So this is how life moves on. And about the career, though I would compliment Professor Sancheti because he had covered a very, very huge ground. But still, I think new set of economic opportunities, new set of competencies, new set of competitiveness, new set of prosperity also awaits the young generation. And education and skill attainment are now tied up. You know, they are, as he says, maybe in future. I'd heard about this in some technical fields and some managerial fields, that people don't want your degree. They don't look at your degree. We were in traditional sphere where degree was very, very important and marks were even more important. But people never looked at the degree. If they knew you have a competency, and they'll have 3-4 rounds of selection or interaction, and then they'll choose somebody who knows the work or who can do the work well. Maybe that comes in future in much more fields. But There will be certain traditional careers which still will remain as important, aided by new fields. So Professor Sancheti talked about competencies. I would say there are skills. The 21st century would be of skills, which are, of course, part of competencies, or a new word for competencies. And 21st century economy is also going to be a much more globalized economy, where the diseases travel, but of course, commerce never stops. Economy also travels. So it will be a merging of disciplines and merging of competencies. The refined categorizations may not remain as important in the times to come, but core competencies will also remain. So the basic skills will remain, but they'll have to be more refined, more sophisticated, more advanced. Like reading, writing, and computation are the three basic skills which have been with us for so long. And now we're moving into areas where reading is quite different. Earlier, we used to sit with a book in the lab, and that would be an idea of enjoying reading. And now you find Doodle and Moodle and Kindle, all kinds of readings available to you. But reading and writing will continue, because all kinds of jobs that come up will have to be based on your advanced understanding of the concepts as well as the requirements around. That doesn't come without that. And computation, of course, machines are there, but I think computations will never become irrelevant or redundant. So they'll continue, and more work will be, of course, they're already there in computer terminals, instructions, manuals, but communication will remain very important. One path which will come in the 20th century, in the next 50 years, and even beyond that. If you look at the national education policy, which has just been given to us, and we are all discussing it, I think languages and mastery in your language would also be one of the very important skill, which is becoming redundant for some years, but will become very important, because if we go back to translations of the classics, if we go back to understanding of Sanskrit, if we go back to teaching in mother tongue, these skills in languages will remain or will become very important in the years to come. And they are always dear to women, so they are specially there for ladies, as you wanted me to focus on jobs which will be there for women or ladies. Then there are, of course, skills of technical nature, which have been there all around in this century, like the computation or the engineering, software, hardware. Information technology will change its pace, and more it will be biotechnology, biomedicine. As you said, mixing of disciplines. We just had positions where, we were looking for people who are good in biomedicine, biotechnology, bioengineering, but also good in security studies. So a mixing of humanities, social sciences, and technology will be required in the years to come. And then new systems of management and organizational functioning will be required. I think the workforces and the workplaces and the workstations are changing in the times to come. And so the traditional offices or organizations which were there before are completely changing. Work from home or work at home more and more may become, for the time to come and maybe in the years to come, a much opted for option by the organizations and by the employees, because it suits both of them in many ways. And therefore, we must be prepared for those, as you said, creative functions or creative ideas. I would say the century which is coming and the years which are coming are the years of innovative thinking and innovative mixing up also. And these innovative ideas, innovative functioning, innovative working, and innovative mixing of disciplines and subjects and languages will be the future, in fact. And thus, The emotional intelligence combined with technical expertise may give many of the solutions which the present century requires for. And after these skills, as you just said, cyber laws is one which is coming up very, very well and which requires different skills. But then company specific skills will also remain in demand and in market, like new technology, market changes, competitive fuels, innovations, alternative fuels, as you said, alternative energy, and then constant revising, upgradation, modification of services and products, both with more and more focus on the market, on the client, on the requirements of individuals. That will also come up. And this again will require a completely out-of-box thinking and out-of-box solutions, which in the years to come will be required. But I would say still, the traditional jobs of teachers, doctors, engineers are not going to go out of market or out of fashion. Of course, they'll be added on more and more by different dimensions of healthcare, like maybe physical physiotherapy or physical health, and more integrative health will become a fashion. I'm very sure Ayurveda is going to make a comeback. It's already there.
Right.
Ayurveda combined with many more health sciences would be the in thing, one career which will be sought after. Then there'll be mental health or emotional health in terms of counseling and in terms of well-being, overall well-being, which will be required in the years to come, because all the machines which are around us require different kinds of healing also. And that would be required in the years to come. Then food services, with more and more careers coming up and with more and more women going out of the homes, food sciences as food services would become not only hospitality, but it will be something different, because India is a big market and India's home food is a hot selling, thing everywhere. So that can become a very good career if one looks at it. I still know people who are from organic food to home food, and a mixing of the two can really be a career in the coming years or the coming century also. Administrators would always be in demand, as they still are, whether it is public organization, private organization. Good governance, and for that, the skills that are required: transparent, smart, accountable. These skills will remain in complete demand in the coming years. And besides YouTube and digital and video marketing and managing all this as a career, social media influencer can be one field where the present generation can combine different kinds of skills. Affiliate marketing, graphics designing, web development, but training and consultancy would be the in thing again. If you say about women, and I'm coming to that, career counseling, which has not really picked up in India as much as it is in the world around, and which remains the need of the hour, because we find youth in India who are circulating around. I find people with 10 degrees and no competency, or 15 degrees they acquire every year, but still not really ready for a job. So career counseling would be a very, very good field for women especially. They also can work in social service or social entrepreneur. That's the right word for the women. And I say women because they can interact well with all kinds of people and can touch their hearts and codes. And then I would say nursing forever. It's a traditional job, but it will continue in the coming century. And then imaging and medical lab technology is going to come up in a very, very big way. And then child care and critical care. Childhood care is coming up with more and more working parents and nuclear families, and women can do really very well. And finally, since we are in a world where Ayurveda, herbs, and of course the medical and chemical formations are there, pharmacies or pharmacists in the coming years, serious pharmacists, because in India, pharmacy has not really picked up as a profession. They sit on the shops as sellers, which is not their job. Their job is something different. And so pharmacy in coming years, along with capital and finance, will be areas where you won't find lacking as far as jobs are concerned. And I think in this century or coming years, since you wanted me to speak for maybe 5 to 6 minutes, but I think in the years to come,
we will have second, third round
innovation,
also.
Innovation and creativity in any sphere would lead you to the leadership position or a position in the market where you can find a job or a calling.
Thank you.
I would end my first round here. Thank you very much.
That's quite a spread of good, quite a spread of good careers that you have brought forth, and very particularly in the context of women, where large number of career options have been given. Very well said, Professor Yadav. Merging of disciplines. Merging of disciplines is something that everyone needs to look at. This whole thinking of science, arts, commerce, specific thinking is breaking. And there are empathy issues and technology issues both being combined. There are left and right brain careers coming together and center brain happening. So this is a very good thing. You know, in my childhood, when I used to do multiple things, 3 or 4 things except games. For some reason, I was not great in games, but there are 3 or 4 other things I'm doing. And my father used to tell, you'll be a jack of all trade and master of none. We are actually moving to a time where you need to be jack of all trade, but master of one. So it's good that merging of disciplines is being brought forth very strongly, as you have said. Reading, writing, computation, the platforms are changing. Books can become Kindles, can become screens. Writing can be on the computer directly. That's a different thing. Computation can move from arithmetic to calculator to the computer and to higher computation as well. Offices, new offices, very, very pertinent point. People who think that you need to go somewhere to work may be up for, we are already in for surprise in it. That you can be actually on the move and working. You can be on a holiday and still manage to make a work. You can be at home and still working meaningfully. In fact, architectural designs, recent times, new designs are being created where a workplace is being created. Half a room is being created as a workplace. The traditional library that some people had in their homes, or one aspect of the house itself is becoming an office, because work from home is going to be a smart home will bring in connectivity so easily that you can actually get that done. And I really take this point of communication for particularly women, men also, but particularly women. Communication is an area that they have immense possibilities of careers. Only that they have to understand, do not, and I really mean, because I'm also a media teacher myself, do not thrive for or do not hanker for the glamour of media. Think of the content of media. And if you are looking at the content and reaching out to people's brains and hearts and minds, then you'll understand that it's not about those who are in the front of the camera that they make real cardinal changes. Changes are done by strategists, and strategists are never seen so much in front. So good command over written, spoken English or Hindi and a third language. Ideally trilingual. In India requires 3 languages. 2 very good, Hindi and English very good. But because India is a diverse land, it's a good thing to have tri-language. And if your mother tongue is Hindi, then Urdu can be the third language, or Punjabi, depending on where you are. So I think you are in Haryana, so Punjabi is good, Haryanvi is good to learn as well, along with Hindi and English. So I do consider that there's a huge impact or huge possibility of careers in web entertainment, web journalism, mobile journalism, web branding, web advertising. So web-based communication, it has a great future. As far as pharmacy is concerned, what you said is true for the B Pharm and M Pharm. They need to go into deeper research to come out with pharmaceuticals. But there is something called diploma pharmacy, D Pharm, who can be in the forefront at the commerce level also. They can work in pharmacy pharmacists, they can work in the pharmacies or shops as well. So great, that's a great large field of careers that have been put forth. Questions are coming, but we'll take that up later on. I request the Vice-Chancellors to also look at the chat box and the question and answer area. You can yourself answer some of the questions as some of the other Vice-Chancellors in the first panel were doing. I move to Professor Dr. S.P. Agarwal. Dr. Agarwal is the Vice-Chancellor of Sainath University, Ranchi, and here this university has been awarded as the Best Upcoming University Award in Indo-Nepal Harmony Summit. I must appreciate Dr. Agarwal for handling education in one of the less developed states and where the education is far more required, and a state which is rich in minerals, rich in nature, rich in many other aspects of life. So over to Dr. S.P. Agarwal. What do you think are the futuristic careers for people in your region, the students that you handle, and how do they prepare themselves for those futuristic careers? Dr. S.P. Agarwal. Unmute yourself, sir. Unmute. Unmute yourself. On your left, there is a mute button on your left. Below on your screen on your left. See a mute button? Just click that, it will be unmuted. You can take help of anyone? No, it's mute.
I have sent a request for unmuting, sir. If you could just accept it, please. I'm trying to
unmute yourself there on your left bottom. There is a mute button, or the host can send you a request. Yeah, now you speak. Now you speak. No, we can't hear you. I don't think there is someone speaking in ABP Education, and please mute yourself, ABP Education. Yeah, Dr. Agarwal, are you unable? Did you join with audio? That's also an important point. Did you join with audio on? I'll request ABP to find the fault and take care of it, and we can go ahead in the meantime. Has Professor Tankeshwar Kumar joined? ABP, could you say?
No, sir. No, sir.
Not yet. Okay. Okay, he'll be joining immediately, anytime. Okay, we please have an interaction with Dr. Agarwal to set it right. In the meantime, we can get back to Dr. Sancheti. There was this question of ABC you put up, the ABC thing that you brought it. Could you please speak and explain how ABC will make a difference in the lives of the youngsters ahead? Dr. Sancheti, please.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. Thank you, Professor Yadav, also for sharing some common thoughts on things of interest. As both of us and you also, Chaudhary Sahab, have opined that things are going to mingle and change and some new sprouts will come, and therefore no one can predict them. And in that situation, how to prepare yourself will be a challenge. And in that case, ABC would be a boon. ABC is something which is now part of the new education policy 2020. It's called Academic Bank of Credit. And I see some of the questions that I'm in science and I'm in class 12 and I'm here, there. What will happen to my future career? Can I change? Can I improve? Whatever. I think those answers would be there. So if you have a potential for allowing me to share my screen, that would be nice. In one shot, I'll be able to explain. If you can allow me that, or ABP can allow me that, that will be nice. If not, I'll try to explain it.
Yes, sir. So you can share your screen, sir.
I can share my screen. Right now it's disabled. It says, my system says
it will be made.
Post
enabled now.
disabled.
It's already enabled, sir. Now
It's already enabled now. Yeah. Okay. So fine. I will now share this screen. And if those who can probably see, this is the scheme in essence. I'm trying to make it big, but I think it's not becoming bigger than this.
No, we can see.
You can see the concept of Academic Bank of Credit. It's part of NEP, as I said. Center, you can see. Let's start from the counterclockwise, the yellow block on the top left. You can see that you can take any subject combinations. And therefore, it will break the notion of conventional specialization and it will promote more interdisciplinarity. As you can see, what change will happen with that is given at the bottom part of it, and what is the major activity is shown. Now you can probably see in a slightly bigger screen.
Yes.
Any subject combination. So I think Madam was talking, you were talking music with maths, with engineering and electronics probably can be a combination. All that can happen. So it will break the notion of anything, and that's why I was promoting that interdisciplinary engineering or branchless engineering will also happen. That will be a new concept. The other thing which will happen with NACB or the ACB kind of a thing, earlier it was called NACB, but the NEP has coined it as ABC. And it will be now merging of regular, distance, online and virtual modes. And the notion of mode of education will change. Everything will be acceptable in future. It may be called as a flexible education, because as the customer pleases or the student pleases, he will possibly take. And for a given degree, he can use the education mode of all the different things. Use of distance, online, contact, offline, virtual, everything is possible, whatever may be. The third thing which will come in this particular concept would be the continuous or lifelong learning. You and me will have to learn, and we are even learning today, all of us, till age of 65, 70. I think there was a mention of 70 years of age. And therefore, I'm saying till the time you serve, I think it's at utmost essential. And with that, continuous learning enablement will happen. And once the enablement is there, why won't I earn a degree at 55 or 60? If I've accumulated enough credits, I should earn a degree. It may be master's in anything, it may be diploma in anything. And by the way, this multiple entry, multiple exit word has been coined because of ABC. It is coined because of a terminology which we use in electronics called multiple input, multiple output MIMO system. On that basis, this was coined multiple entry, multiple exit, which is becoming quite popular now, that people can take a break and join again. I think that's another part of the scheme. And the next thing is if you see the green button there, study in any national or international institution. You don't have to cross the boundaries. You don't have to worry too much about the very high cost. Today, I want to do a course from Stanford or Oxford. I can possibly do sitting in my office, sitting in my room, at my home, whatever. And therefore, the physical campus and locations will change. And I think there was some discussion also happening. What will happen to some of the physical campuses here and there? Would they become non-viable? Would they be non-functional? Would they suffer? Would they be needed or not? There are many answers which are there, but students need not worry about the boundary. Sitting in Delhi, they can study in Chennai, and vice versa is possible. Simultaneously, they can do another degree from US or Europe, whatever. The next thing is the new currency of the education will be what we call credits, not the degrees themselves. And credits will be converted into whatever thing which you want. Credit will be the new currency. So the notion of educational currency will change, and this is what we call the change in terms. So you will go to 10 different institutions, earn 10 credits, 5 credits, 7 credits from wherever you want, pick the best. Suppose I'm in, let's say, an X institution, let's say I'm studying in SRM, but for some reason I'm fencing some teacher in IIT Madras who teaches a very good course, who's very popular internationally. I can take his course through this mechanism and bring those credits in my degree here in SRM and still earn my degree, and that's very much doable. And finally, if someone makes a potpourri of some disciplines which are not known, that he has made a hodgepodge of specialization, he will be becoming eligible for what we call Bachelor of Liberal Education. You mix anything. You have not done enough courses in commerce or science or arts or engineering or medicine, but you have done enough credits. In that case, you can possibly still get what we call the degree of Bachelor of Liberal Education. I think that is a potential which it will have. And if I go further, just to tell you that how the teaching will change, teaching learning will change. I'm not going to explain it, Ujjwalji. If you don't have time, I'll just quickly do it. I call it the driving dozens. And these are something like dirty dozens, as we sometimes know as a popular phrase. And the driving dozens in teaching learning, which will make that happen, possibly are there shown. These are the first 6 or first half dozens. They are already happening. For example, Madam talked about 3D printing. I must tell you that the 3D printing is also going to come in the kitchen. Madam did talk about what will happen in the industry of that particular nature. 3D printers will print your rotis or pizzas or whatever, those things can be done by them. They can also pour the topping on that. But what I'm saying is this is for the education. So there'll be smart classrooms already happening, text to speech and vice versa, not fully there, but it's very much there. All these Alexas and all that are possibly doing it. You probably know from Microsoft, probably know from Amazon. Biometric eye tracking is for proctoring and all that. We have started using it in COVID times. Social networking, blogs, various other things, collective learning is happening. 5G and cloud, all expansion, all new future expansion of educational institution will be driven by that, because these are highly scalable and omnipresent, and therefore this will be the way to go. And 3D printing, I already explained. These 6 things are happening, by the way. The next 6 things are going to happen. Please see them very, very clearly. This time I'll go clockwise, starting from artificial intelligence. You are seeing artificial intelligence. It is happening. We are talking about it in a big way. I met a professor of Australia, New South Wales University, who handles a class of 600 students, around 600 students. And he claims that he gives personal attention to every student. Now that is the power of AI. He knows who is a slow learner, who is a fast learner, who is good in this part, who is bad in that part, who is taking interest, who is not taking interest or attention. Everything, every data comes to him, and he therefore is able to mingle it with many other technologies and handle the students. Game-based learning, we never liked games in our classrooms or even devices in our classrooms. Game-based learning is going to be common. All these Xboxes and PlayStations are going to make you teach or learn something very fast and quickly. And that is why this self-learning element will help you with that. The big thing will be flexible display LCD desks, which are there. No need of pen, no need of paper. You will just carry one foldable display in your bag, like you carry your mobile these days, and that will become your book, that will become your copy, that will become your pen, that will become your paper, that will become a resource for every subject, and internet connectivity even appear in examination from that. That is the power of the flexible display. When it comes, LCD displays will be there. Augmented reality, virtual reality will be something very, very good. And with that, probably history can be created. When I'm teaching a history subject, I can create a darbar of some, let's say Akbar or Maharana Pratap or anything 400, 500,000 years back. I can create that and show how things were functioning. I can create the scenes of war, how the wars were fought. All those things can be done with the augmented and virtual reality. Wearable devices, you don't have to possibly carry the laptops as we carry right now and chargers. These will all be printed on your body, or these will all be fixed on your body. Body can act as an antenna. Displays can be done on your specs and all that, and keyboards can be projected, and then touch sensors can do that. All those things are possible. And finally, the way we are meeting today, you are seeing me in a 3D, a 2-dimensional thing only. You're seeing my picture when I'm speaking. You may find that in times to come, when the holographic presence will be there, you will see Sandeep Sancheti sitting in front of your chair itself. A 3D projection can happen through laser and various other techniques which are there. So these are the things which will make everything personalized, everything centric to anything which you want. A student wants to be student centric, which will be there. And so with this, I'll close right now. I'll give an interesting example of path, how a path can be created for a student later, just as an example later, as a closing remark from my side, if time permitting that. With that, Jwalji, I'll possibly close this presentation. Thank you.
This is a great.
Am I audible?
Yeah, who is speaking?
Yeah, this is Dr. S.P. Agarwal.
Just a minute. I'll call you. Dr. Sancheti, this has been a fabulous perspective that you have brought. In fact, the viewers have started writing thank you and great and all that, because this perspective is the real perspective of post-COVID educational world. Thank you very much. We'll get back to you on this pathway you said a little later. Good to get you, Dr. Agarwal, back on the stage. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It is just because of the technological help.
No problem. We are all learning. We are all learning.
Yeah.
Dr. Agarwal, your perspective on future careers, particularly in the context of Jharkhand, Bihar, what suggestions do you have? Over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. First of all, good evening to all of you. And I would like to thank to the Telegraph for organizing a webinar on careers. In fact, I am feeling very much elevated, delighted, and to be a part and parcel and sharing the dais with the galaxy of vice chancellors and academicians. Basically, in Jharkhand context, we would say that basically it is a state where major population is from a tribal background. The students are weak in communication equally in Hindi and English and in their languages. But as a Sainath University, we are providing a doorstep technical education for them. And the university was established in the year 2012. And as a university, we are providing scholarships to the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe students. And now if you talk about the career and the future career, basically in India, still the career is based on the educational stream. As we all know, there are three streams: science, commerce, and art streams. And based on these streams, one can choose his or her career. At present, if we talk about the art stream, the student may be the journalist, maybe the musician, maybe a script writer, maybe a historian, maybe a film writer. These all professions related with the art stream. And if a student want to go in a science and technology field of art student, he is graduated in arts stream, then it is not possible. Still, the boundaries are watertight. Multidisciplinary approach is quite limited still in India. I am hopeful, as per new education policy, more and more multidisciplinary approach will be encouraged. Secondly, if you talk about the science stream, the medical, the engineering side, whether it is a chemical engineering or it is a artificial intelligence or a computer science and engineering, electronics engineering, these fields are over exhausted at this moment. Now, what would be the emerging careers in near 10 to 20 years? What I think is that agriculture sector would be one of the major and emerging sector, because food is the basic necessity of the human being. Feeding the world will never face a recession or slow down. In fact, development in the technology, research, and innovation has multiplied the scope of agriculture in a big way. And secondly, I am very hopeful in the field of health and allied health sector.
Yes, sir. I think we have.
I'm not.
Yes, yes. Please continue.
Yeah. I am not saying.
No, you make the camera at the right place, and please continue if you can. Yeah, continue now.
Yes. Basically, I find more and more scope in the allied health sector, in the sense that there is a quite scope in nursing, paramedical courses, pharmaceutical sciences, because there are still a scarcity in the field of nursing education. There is a scarcity in the trained nurses. So as per the estimate, in 2030, there is a need of around 6 million nurses in the developing and underdeveloping countries. And it is quite obvious during in this corona pandemic that the health sector, so there is a need as concerned, as far as nurses are concerned, as far as pharmaceutical or pharmacy are concerned. Third sector, which I prefer, is the law field. Basically, it is emerging like anything. Nowadays, BA LLB, BBA LLB are the quite giving you the promising career, and I think that BA LLB or BBA LLB or a law graduate definitely going to have a very happy and bright career and future. And as a university, we are providing our responsibility very well, and we are here trying to educate the students. And secondly, I would like to quote that in India we did not respect the hard work or basically the labor work in developing countries, in developed countries like USA, China, and Australia. Irrespective of their job tax, every single individual is treated equally and to the same extent. This is one of the reasons that they are the developed country. Here, the welder, the fitter, the plumber, they are equally respected and they enjoy the same respect in the society. And I think when we talk about career, when we talk about future in our India, there is a need to respect hard work, labor, and laborers. Thank you.
Great. The biggest and the best point that you have highlighted, sir, is the dignity of labor. respect for labor and the hard work. If with this labor we can engage higher skills, the skills vocational and technological, vocational includes technological as well. So if we can bring higher competencies with this labor, the same labor shall be more productive and actually far greater impact that would come. Thank you, Dr. Agarwal, for your viewpoints and for your perspective from Jharkhand. We move to the next perspective, next discussion. I don't think ABP can tell me, Professor Tankeshwar has joined so far, or G. Hemant Kumar?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. Yes,
Okay. I'll get back to Sushma Madam. Sushma Madam, I'll get back to you, Professor Sushma Yadav. There are certain questions with your for you in the question answer box. A question has been asked. Professor Yadav, there are artificial intelligence driven career counseling tools rampantly available. Won't they overtake human career counseling jobs? What's your take on that, ma'am? Professor Dr. Sushma Yadav. Are you there? Are you there, Sushma ma'am? Okay, I will take this question to Dr. Sancheti again. And there is also a question from Arpita Bose. Even though you are an engineer, can you please suggest which roles will not be affected by machines? So that is one question. And if you could tell artificial intelligence with respect to counseling. Yeah.
Okay, the question asked actually pertains to what I was trying to indicate to you in the end. So it's very nice that it has been transferred to me directly or indirectly. Now the dilemma a student will always face is that which direction to go, which will fructify into being successful or reaching the end point or the target point or not. I think that is a challenge a young student will always have. It is something like that when I go to a marriage ceremony and I look for the food, and if there are 100 dishes and I actually end up eating only 10, with the remaining 90 I remain dissatisfied, saying that, oh, I didn't try. And a friend of mine who will meet me after that will ask, did you try that? And I'll say, I didn't. So I'll feel dissatisfied. So I think there is a risk of that. When the choices are more, then the selection process becomes much more difficult. And therefore, you need guidance. When the guidance is available, your selection process becomes much better. If the menu, if their shape, sizes, everything is shown, you will be able to choose whatever is best. Otherwise, you go from counter to counter and you are unable to eat something which you like most because you already filled your tummy. I think that's a challenge. artificial intelligence like things will help in that. Now tell me, to the person who had asked this question, I have a counter question to answer his or her question. That is, today, if you are, let's say, in New York, or if you are in Bombay, or you are in Delhi, you have to go from a place X to Y. Do you depend upon the guidance with some local street vendors or people passing by provide you, or you depend on the GPS, global positioning system? You do that. What does a global positioning system do to you? It tells you 5 different routes. It tells you whether you want to walk down or go by bicycling or by auto or by car, or maybe by any other means can also be there. It can show you all the means. It will tell you the cost. It will tell you the time. It will tell you the complexity. It will tell you the congestion. So you are reaching from one destination to another. What is your life? Life is also one destination to another. Today, your destination or your point of origin is 12th or +2. And where you want to reach? You want to become Professor Ujjwal K. Chaudhary. You want to become Sandeep Sancheti. You want to become Bill Gates. You can feed that as your destination in a new system, which I have coined, and I'm talking about that. I've written in newspapers also. It will be SPG. Like GPS, it will be SPG, Students Personal Guidance System. And in that SPG, you will feed, I'm in 10th standard, I'm in 12th standard, I'm so-and-so standard, I have so-and-so background. So you'll give that input. It will have lots of data. It will apply artificial intelligence. It will have case studies to match. And then ultimately, it will give you those 5-10 different routes or answers that you want to be successful in India or internationally or within your state or within your home or whatever it may be. What will be the cost, what will be the time, what will be the energy, and then it will tell you what is the best route, whether you go to science or commerce or arts or whatever. Let's say you want to become the chief manager or the chief general manager of State Bank of India. Now, there are people who have gone from agriculture, who have gone from engineering, who have gone from commerce, who have gone from management background there. So it may possibly have all the case studies and keep guiding you that this is the best route I find. This is the route which is prescribed for you. This may be a costly route in terms of time and money, whatever it may be. And therefore, artificial intelligence is not going to be a hindrance. Artificial intelligence is going to be a boon. I gave you the example of food so that you can satisfy when you go to that. But in your life, it's much long term. 40, 50, 60 years, and therefore that can be seen only through technology. Whatever best I may be as a counselor, but I cannot give you entire history, entire data, entire details, and therefore it becomes difficult. You probably know homeopathy falls into that category, that you keep getting the symptoms input-wise, and then you keep matching certain things, and that's why it's a bit difficult. And in the same way, artificial intelligence will solve the difficult things and make them much more easy, and therefore it's not going to be the hindrance. What was the second part, Ujjwalji? What was the ask? There was second part also you had added. If you remember that, you can just repeat it.
No, because the question was, which roles will not be affected by machines? The guy is an engineer. Which roles will not be affected by machines in times to come?
No, yes, I did give you an example that machines will affect the food, but still there'll be a human touch to the food in terms of the decoration, in terms of placement, in terms of the flavor and getting the inputs and taste and all that. There can be same thing with the various other domains. I think Madam gave an example of nursing. Nursing, to some extent, robots can help, but that they cannot give you the same kind of a feel factor which is there. So there are n number of examples which are going to be there. I'm pretty sure teaching is not going to go away. I'm a teacher. Teachers' requirement will not go away. Machines will do the diagnosis, but the doctor's requirement will not go away. So there are a large number of disciplines. World is not changing upside down with the technology. Technology comes, creates an aura around it that it will change the whole world. Those who are young people here, to them I must tell that the artificial intelligence has not come right now. Artificial intelligence came some 30, 40 years back. Even I studied when I was a student, artificial intelligence, but it didn't make an impact. Same way, right now, it's making an impact, but all the technologies will not make the same impact. And therefore, large number of jobs will remain. I give you an example of the ABC. I probably see 20-25% students taking advantage of. Those who are super fast can do a degree rather than in 4 years, 3 years, and therefore they take advantage of that. Those who are super slow probably can take advantage that they'll earn the degree in 5-7 years with multiple disciplines, whatever they like, whichever is easy for them, and they get a degree and satisfy. Otherwise, they keep failing in the same discipline, whether it is BA, BSc. And therefore, technology is only an enablement, but technology is not wiping you off. And therefore, my take in next 10 years, 70 to 80% of what is there right now is going to remain. It's only at the top end and the bottom end, things will change. Bottom end is most needy, they'll be facilitated, and the top end is most demanding, and they will also be facilitated to do many things simultaneously. So this is my take on technology and change of the roles.
I think you have hit it on the nail, hit the right nail on the head of it. But the only point I'd like to add here, sir, is that repetitive functions where the same product is being repeated in the same process, much of it will be taken away by the technology.
That is for scalability. That is for repeatability. That is for reliability. That is for any time you want to use. So I didn't talk of those concepts. Those are automatically embedded anytime, anywhere, any mode, any language. All those many any's are there in NACB, by the way. And therefore, all technology is a donkey, by the way. Don't take it otherwise. People who might like, I'm a technologist, but technology can do these things. And hopefully, if we use it purposefully, rightly, our life will be better. Our life will be that already Western world is talking about 4 days a week working rather than 5 days a week working. In India, mostly it is 5 days. So that's comfort that you do other things. You enjoy your hobbies, move out, spend your money. Why accumulate? I think technology will allow you to do all that. And even if it is hard pressed that you have to work on a Sunday, you may be on a holiday on an island, you may still work from there and deliver what you want to do.
Exactly. Okay. The productivity per hour will increase with the technology. That's the point. It doesn't replace the human being, particularly in creative problem solving and critical thinking. It never can replace the human being with the current artificial intelligence level that we have. Yes, there can be further development on that as well. Thank you, sir.
And the domains of designs will always remain with us. Machines can create the designs as per our requirements, but the perception, imagination, creation will always remain with us. Like that.
And basically, I would like to say the first template will be always with us. Repetition of the template can be done by machine. Dr. Sancheti, I must tell that more than 30 to 40 listeners have congratulated us for your session and thanking you for insights that you are bringing in. And please continue to be there for another half an hour. We'll finish in half an hour. But in the meantime, we'll take a few more points. Dr. Shushma, you are already there, if I'm not wrong. Minati Saha is asking. Dr. Shushma, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Minati Saha is asking, is there any possibility of replacing psychological counselors by artificial intelligence tools and techniques? And if so, what will be the role of the counselor and psychologist, psychiatrists, psychological experts in future?
I don't, artificial intelligence surely can, in the long run, I won't say replace, but participate in counseling or healing. But the human intelligence or the emotional intelligence, which AI may not really develop as much or as fast, would be always required. And in the coming years, I would say it is much, much more required. Life is getting more and more complex. And in that complex, human mind can only really respond to the kind of stresses and the problems related to stresses which are going to emerge, are already emerging. Therefore, I would say AI is going to come, of course, nobody can stop that, but it can never replace HI, human
intelligence. AI can never replace human intelligence.
It can
with
never.
The current technological status that we have in the country, madam, with the current technological status, how much can we actually bring in this blended learning? How much effectively can we do? This is a question that keeps coming from the many of the audience members. If you could kindly throw some light on that.
I think if we go to Bharat, which is inside or interiors of India, then technology is still not percolated down as much, except the mobiles. And mobiles or handling mobiles doesn't mean that you are a person with technology, or you are really understanding through technology. There is a middle generation, a generation like us, below us, around us, which is still not very, very comfortable with this. And there is a category or social category and social class which does not have access to the smart technology which is required for learning, or especially learning based on technology. Therefore, I won't say we can go for technology completely, but as you said, blended technology, we can really look for, where we can send things and then come for discussion, or give some material, let them learn from the distant learning modules which are available, or MOOCs which are available. But I would still say at least 40% population still would be out of it. So we need low bandwidth platforms. We need innovative machines also, and innovative ways of using digital classrooms or digital technology. That can only be the future of. Blended learning can come up, but still there'll be some corners of India which will remain. You know, you've looked at the migrant laborers. You know that, you know, tribal areas. I'm sure you know, you have them around. And you also know generations which have not been able to afford them. So blended learning is the need of time, even such scenarios or pandemic times, but we have to go miles and miles before we really come up to that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please be there. There will be some questions furthermore.
Sure.
Dr.
There
Agarwal.
are some questions. If you say, there's some questions if I can answer, because there's somebody who says that I've done my history and what do? I don't want to go for government jobs. So young man or woman, whosoever it is, you can go in archaeology, you can go in hospitality, you can go in tourism. I think the world is open for you, and
media
history
and communication.
is
Someone from history
enticing.
can
Communication.
media,
Media.
Yes.
And the world is there for you. We are going back to knowing our roots. So
Yes,
history has a real good option.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. S.P. Agarwal, would you please focus a bit on careers in agriculture, agrarian management, MBA in agriculture business, agri sciences. On that, could you please throw some light?
Basically, agriculture is a branch dealing with many aspects of life. It is associated with the food supply, food processing, rural economy, rural development, environmental health, food production, horticulture, animal rearing, and it also associated with fertilizers, agriculture equipments. And the students are having a very great scope in the banking sector, where there is a requirement of a loan officer in every bank, and the eligibility criteria to be a loan manager is BSc Agriculture. And here one more term is there, that is BTech Agriculture. Both are the 4-year degree program, but the basic difference is this: BTech Agriculture is more focused on the machine procedure, and more focused on the production techniques. So it is a quite rewarding career, and the students who are basically belongs to rural background, they can use the new methodologies and technologies in their field, and they can increase their productivity. And also good quality of seed is also associated with the agriculture. And in my view, because food is a basic necessity for life, and it will never face recession, and same way the agriculture will be remain in demand in near future.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Sancheti, if we can come back to you in a new topic, careers in healthcare, as is brought in by many people, many speakers from 3 o'clock onwards. Careers in healthcare is the demand of the day. How can universities create diversity in healthcare education, more seats, more focus? what can be the focus area on that? Dr.
Okay, I'll
Sanchiti.
come to the health a little later. I'll just comment on something which was already on.
Right.
Professor Shushma Yadav also commented on that. I, being from technology, I love it. And I must give you enough examples to convince that technology can change everything. In fact, the whole world, geographically, politically, socially, whatever way you want to see it, is getting changed because of the technology primarily. Whether it was a World War I or II, it happened because someone had technology and someone didn't. World War II ended because someone bombed someone with the technology, and that's where it ended. Technology made England rule us, or maybe many countries, and vice versa. And therefore, all the inventions possibly or technologies have changed the order of the world, even in financial control or domain. For example, England was a power, or Portugal, or these countries were power. The powers got shifted. It got to possibly to US, and then possibly to Japan, and now to China, and who knows, next will be India. It all happens. Any big thing in world with any individual or any country cannot remain stable. World is not static, it's dynamic, it will keep changing. Now see the potential. If today I tell you that communication, for ages now we are calling world is a global village. Why? It's not because we have shrunk the world. We have not. We have shrunk the world only by connecting the world. Communication technologies. Suddenly mobile phones are there in every hand. Madam will have two, you will have two, I'll have two, like that. And that is the power of technology. You see the power of technology, how our banking and financial operations have changed completely. We don't have to go for queues and all that. Similarly, if you try to see the energy now, which used to be costly and going up and up, I gave you the example of solar thing. And once again, it's going to be dirt cheap. Already it is 3 rupees a unit, whereas the conventional energy is 7-8 rupees a unit. And who knows, because of that, the energy will become dirt cheap like mobile communication. Once that becomes cheap, electrical vehicles will come and they will run by energy, and therefore the transportation will become cheap. And therefore many things in the world can change. And by the way, technology is spreading its root faster than ever because of various particular reasons which are there, you probably know. And therefore I have reasons to believe these changes, artificial intelligence or any other technology, the growth will be much faster than anticipated. What has happened in 6 months in COVID times probably proves that everything has become a technological bent of mind. One answer to madam, which madam was trying to give for history student, and I must say that I did give you an example when I talked about the AI, that with not AI only, AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality. The history person can also work in technology. I may be a coder, but I don't know history, so I cannot create that scene. But the historian can sit with me, or historian can learn a little bit of technology and create that AR and VR for that. So anyone can go anywhere. There are no boundaries. They are all punctured, I would say, or broken, if not punctured, completely broken also. Now, the last part of your question is on the health.
Healthcare. Yeah.
I am not a health expert, by the way, but I do have a big medical college which is there. And tell me what has not been invented by us in recent times in healthcare. And by the way, these are not necessarily by the doctors or nurses. These they have served, they have huge distinction during this time. But all the developments of masks and shields and ventilators and swab collectors and all that have been done by the technologists. What are these? These are all medical appliances and equipment. Forget about that. Everything which medical needs a support, whether you are infected with COVID or I am, is coming through the mobile and the apps which are there. I must tell you that possibly world's first app was developed in US way back in February end or March itself. And one of our students who was on the internship at UC Berkeley did that particular part. He was a part of the core part of the team, and that's how the news broke to us. And after that, our students have done something like 5 to 6 more such things. And if there is a vaccine development, it is not purely medical domain, it's technological domain. And even if it is the testing and monitoring and control and human trials or whatever, where again SRM is contributing, is once again a technological aspects in terms of everything. And therefore, these are married. And I'll give you the last example. Sometimes technology fails itself or the society fails the technology. When I was graduating in 1982 and as an engineer, we thought biomedical engineering has a huge scope. We were thinking in next 5 to 10 years, doctors will become redundant. You'll go to a machine will test you, and machine will tell you what ailment you have. I'm saying 1982 is what was our thought at that time. A lot of my friends too went to biomedical.
Right.
That was not realized at that time. But today, with IoT, with AI, with various advanced things which are there, all those scans and other things which are there. I walked in a Bangalore display in an exhibition last year, and which was done in NIMS there. And I get into this system, move slowly, and when I come out of that, it gives me a lot of my data about medical health and other things.
Right.
It is all purely technological based. But that doesn't mean that we are going to make nurses and doctors redundant. They will still have their say. They will prescribe the medicines. They will do whatever is required. But machines will make the process very, very reliable, repeatable, and doable 24/7. Can you ask a nurse or doctor to operate 24/7 in terms of diagnosing or doing anything day and night? Can it do remotely? Do you know what is telemedicine? How is telemedicine going to be a boon for village? So my take here is that the technology is going to change the world upside down, and the speed at which it is happening sometimes is worrisome, but sometimes it's very, very happy also. So let's keep the control over it, because we know that anything in excess is bad, and let it not happen in excess, and I'm sure it will do good to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Really, very impressive indeed, the way you have explained the thing. I really request you to write 2 articles, not just one. Disruption amplified, that's one. Disruption amplified in the context of education, that's one. And the other one that I think would be very significant is this dirty dozens, what you call as dirty dozens, the driving dozens of future education. If these 2 things would be really path breaking, and the viewers are also appreciating that continuously. If you can write these 2, I request ABP to publish them and actually take it to a huge, large audience. They need to read, the educational community need to read these in a very good. Yes, Srima is very happy. Rasul, Meera, Suraj K. Prasad, Tanima Sheet, everyone is thanking for the wonderful content. Shreyashi Rupa, wonderful content that you have given. There are registrars, there are professors, there are head of the departments who are listening to it, and they're extremely happy. Thank you, sir.
I'm thankful to them and thankful to you for this opportunity in asking these questions.
I think this is perhaps your first ever interaction with the Eastern Indian academicians also, in a way. Yes. Thank you very much. But these 2 articles, I will ask ABP to chase you to get these 2 articles anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to introduce the next Vice Chancellor, Professor Tankeshwar Kumar. Guru Jambheswar University is very well known in Haryana. Guru Jambheswar University of Science and Technology in Hisar. Sir is the Vice Chancellor there, and he has actually been a tall leader with Education Leadership Award, Lifetime Achievement Award, Vidyasagar Award, and Vijayashree Award in his lifetime. Dr. Tankeshwar Kumar, please come on video and tell us what, according to you, are the future focus of careers, and how to train, how to educate, how to evolve the talent for those futuristic careers. Dr. Tankeshwar Kumar.
Thank you very much. I am Tankeshwar Kumar from Guru Jambheswar University of Science and Technology. I was listening to Professor Sandeep Sanchetiaji and Professor Sushma. Yeah, I am happy to see that, we are talking about, artificial intelligence and healthcare and agricultures and so on. Yeah. I wish to add something to it. It's very, very, I don't know whether, because I came late, maybe it's already, covered the things, but I see that I see a lot of opportunities in the case of data analytics. I can see that most of the companies will be looking for the data analytics, and maybe their decisions and their marketing and everything, sales, maybe they're all depending upon how they are being guided through their data and big data analysis and so on. And the other thing which I look is, as I said, is the artificial intelligence are there. Then that simply, see that the people, the different, I say the different human beings will have the different requirements. and so they have the different requirements, and accordingly the artificial intelligence that can be used differently for the different. So I see that there will be a lot of opportunity for the product designers. You know, product designers is another career. I think there could be there. You know, some everybody if I had the different different requirement of the product is there, then obviously there could be something like a product designer will be there. Obviously, that could be another opportunity. Obviously, it will involve obviously the machine learning skills and obviously I will say the other I say for example the mechanical training and so on, you know, because ultimately you have to design some product, so you have to have the different kind of knowledge, so that that can really boost the I say the economy if you have the different products, and the products are which are which can be sold anywhere. So that is the kind of thing is available, and I see that the healthcare is a major boost can be there in the country, because I say that we have missed the technology of the semiconductor technology, or we are not making the ICs and so on. But we are in position to make the healthcare devices and the instrument is also right. So that is the I think area in which our country should focus on. That is, and it's also the need of the hour, where we should provide a really good healthcare facility to our citizens, and also lead the things. We are already doing very well in the pharmaceuticals, and we are making all drugs and so on. So I think the healthcare is a very important career opportunity for where because the country will be, I think, will be the focusing. And obviously, as said, there is a new education policy. There's a national education policy has come up, and there are a lot of opportunities for the educationist. When we say it has to be 25:1 for the colleges and 16:1 for the universities, and this, and you have now the courses like 5+3+4. So that means we are to have to increase the number of teachers manifold, and even if you go for the 4.5% of GDP, and if GDP growth, there will be enough money in the education sector, and if it reaches the 6%, then obviously you can understand there will be lots of opportunities for the teachers. And now the teachers, when I say it has, the teachers has to have all as you said, the blended technology, you can use the technology to teach the various teachers, and we're talking about the 100% enrollment ratio for the up to +2, and 50% graduate, 50% to the GER, right? So that means we're looking to that 2035, where the country to be education full of educationists. So we need lot of manpower in the education sector, and the education sector obviously will be a lot of I say a lot of career opportunities will be there. That is what I wish to say initially.
Yeah, thank you. And in fact, it is true that education will see a big leapfrogging forward, but the quality and the what should I say, the skill set of the teachers for the new normal would be very different, because blended was not the practice earlier, sir. Sir, one question to you, because you have talked well about the healthcare. Healthcare, unfortunately, is becoming very expensive in India. And COVID-19 has actually shown that how public healthcare has actually suffered earlier, and the private healthcare is very expensive. So how do you really suggest what can be done to make healthcare education so effective that it can actually lead to greater and cheaper health services to the larger masses? What can be done in the public healthcare system, sir?
Yeah, firstly, we see that if we see that a number of doctors, the number of doctors available in the country, that has to be increased. We have different rules, as if you look at the for other countries for conducting the practicals for the doctors and attaching the hospitals to this. I think the medical education is very costly, as a costly affair in India, and I think some norms have to be changed. Right? That is what I have been. I don't know what I'm not a the expert in that field, but I have listened to the people that they are talking that our norms are very stringent, so that we are not able to produce the real doctors. And obviously, the once we have the doctors, the public health care system will improve, and our universities, I will say, they should also start the courses like different you have the in the medical side, we can start various courses where we can provide trained manpower to the hospitals and so on. Even we don't have courses on the hospitals, management training and things like that. MLTs and things like that. We are we not, our normal universities are not providing courses on the medicine. As said, is the university should be multidisciplinary. That means, as somebody said, that even IITs are thinking of going into the medical side. So that is very important, that every university try to contribute, whether it is even in the public health even. So that is the way I see that we should do more contribution to the public.
Great, great.
May I say
Yeah.
something here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Sir.
ma'am. Please.
Because I think there are many questions about healthcare.
Right.
And health is, of course, expensive and precious both ways. And with stresses like from machines and from society around, it is going to be even more important. So as Professor Tankeshwar just now shared, I would say, besides being physicians, medical lab technology, because machines, as Professor Sancheti said, are coming up in a big way. Medical imaging technology, critical care technology, then in health also, counseling will become very important, because there are areas where you have to listen to the patient, and with families becoming nuclear again, you don't, I have some pain, I feel like telling somebody. If everybody's in pain, nobody listens to it. The joint family structure which we had earlier in India, was pain absorber also in many ways. Somebody comes and touches your forehead, sits with you, and you feel much, much better. This kind of healthcare, this kind of personal attendance and personal care, and if somebody is well trained and well educated also, that will be a boon. These will come up. And I tell you one instance where I was Vice-Chancellor of IGNOU, which has a School of Health Sciences. Integrated health science is going to be the demand of the times to come.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Right, where you can, cure with English medicine. But then for lifelong cure, you go to Ayurveda. Yes. Or, Unani, all this. So you will need combined health information or training. And then I would also say that in times to come, assistants, which are nursing assistants, but which are home assistants also, with a bit of health care technology, healthcare information or degree, would be in great demand. And these are jobs for women, I would say. They'll be much in demand both ways. So young ladies who are here, who say social work I've done, some say psychology I've done, some say health care job, they have a very, very good and great future, provided they just brush up, update themselves, and then the society looks for them.
I appreciate this.
I'm giving you one example. Just give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
So we tied up with a hospital in Gadchiroli, that tribal and Naxalite area. And I tell you, every year they'll pick up 50 girls, train them into various aspects of healthcare, absorb them with job guarantee. Okay. So there are multiple facets of healthcare which are going to emerge in coming, and more machines and more stresses and more carbon and more problems. So they will also need critical healthcare in different fields, which were not required when the machines were not there. And so healthcare has to look for solutions towards that also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your suggestion on integrated healthcare system is a very good suggestion. I would request the different vice chancellors, for example, Sushma ma'am, you to kindly write on 10 top careers for women in the new normal. If you could, and ABP Education can work on that, publish that, 10 top careers for women in the new normal. And Dr. Tankeshwar, if you could write on this, how the teaching career will take a huge leap forward in the light of the new education policy, how teaching career will be redefined. In that, if you could write on that and contribute, and that would be great. Anand Bajar Group Education Portal would love to carry forward that. And Dr. Agarwal, Professor Agarwal, if you could write on agriculture, because your agriculture and forest resources, energy resources, these are strong in Jharkhand. From that perspective, if you could write a piece on careers in modern agriculture, particularly in the post-COVID times. And I've already requested Dr. Sancheti to write on 2 different areas, one on disruption amplified and the other on the dirty dozens. I would care, not the driving dozens, I'll take the dirty dozens for that. Any closing comment from you, Sancheti sir?
And I would like to join you, Professor Chaudhary, and the viewers here, the audience, in complimenting Professor Chetty. I really admire Professor
Fabulous talk. Fabulous.
The way you shared so much of expertise in such a simple way, you know, which opens many forays for us also. Not only the audiences here. Thank you so much, really. I wish to applaud that.
Yes.
And for the youngsters, please don't worry. Each one of you have a world to look for. And there are areas and areas where you just have to think again out of box. There are many who've done B.Ed or M.Ed and they are worried. Teachers would never leave the market. Teachers would never cease to exist. Whatever machines come, how many machines may come, but the teachers and gurus of India will always be in demand. So those who are doing education, please don't worry. You can choose fields, but they'll be well for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Since we have already crossed the time, so I'll bring this session to an end. Sikha Mishra's comment I will take, that thank you so much. Overwhelming session. Very, very informative. And indeed, so many people have thanked us. For those asking for the articles, let me say these articles will all be carried in abpeducation.com. There is a column called Edu Views. Already some 45 very reputed educationers have written there. Articles are already there. You can go and see. And we are requesting these ladies and gentlemen to also add to that. Because today, it's indeed a pleasure for me. It's a great pleasure for me to have actually listened to such stalwart vice chancellors. I'm sure many are saying we are here from 3 o'clock. We couldn't leave our chairs. It was such a wonderful discussion. Thank you. With that, we'll bring this session to an end and we'll meet sometime somewhere else, sharing in the new normal education in this manner without meeting. I have met Sancheti Saab only one time, but it seems that we have been sharing ideas for long. And it's such a natural way of talking and interacting. Thank you. And thank you, Anand Bajar Patrika Group.
Thank you, Chaudhary Saab. Thank you all the attendees, panelists. Wonderful session, very enjoyable and learning experience. Look forward to meeting you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.